Raila states that he was aggrieved by the declaration of William Ruto as president-elect with 7.1 million votes against his 6.9 million votes. And in a detailed 45-page affidavit, Azimio's deputy presidential candidate Martha Karua claimed there were 21 individuals who had access to the IEBC system, compromising the security and integrity of the presidential election. Karua stated that out of the 21 individuals, 19 were foreigners and 2 were Kenyans. Now, 3 petitioners have moved to court to seek an interpretation of the Elections Act on the powers conferred to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission chairman on declaration of results. Through their lawyer Ashford Kome, Michael Asola and Eric Githinji wanted the Constitutional Court to make an urgent determination over the said section of the Elections Act so as to shed light as to whether the decision by IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati was within the law. They argued that the certificate issued to the president-elect William Ruto remains valid unless overturned by the Supreme Court. The trio stated that it is only the IEBC chair who can declare presidential candidate and has been validly elected in an election. The urgent application will be placed before a vacation judge for orders and directions. Now, IEBC is today expected to submit its response to the Supreme Court regarding the petitions filed against the presidential results as announced by Chairman Wafula Chebukati. In the responses, IEBC is expected to respond to several issues raised in the petitions, including whether the results announced by the Commission were the authentic results at the polling stations, whether the IEBC database was infiltrated with the purposes of interfering with the election results, among many others. The Commission is also expected to address the differences among the commissioners, where 4 commissioners walked out of Bomas of Kenya, disputing the results. These were the commissioners immediately after walking out of Bomas, while Chairperson Wafula Chebukati was announcing the results.
We are saying we have upped the standards of election in this country. We have step by step faced the challenges that have been there. At the same time, we have ensured that things are running despite everything else. Now, we are not at Bomas of Kenya because we cannot take ownership of the results that is going to be announced because of the opaque nature which these results have been handled.
The difference between the commissioners is one of the issues presented before the Supreme Court. Now, former Independent Electoral Boundaries Commissioner Roslina Kombe has regretted the recent incidents of harassment and attacks meted out on poll agency staff who oversaw the August 9th general election. In a message posted on her Twitter handle, Kombe stated that it is time to stop the senseless incidents. Her remarks came hours after the police confirmed Gishugu returning officer Geoffrey Gitobu had collapsed and died while in Nanyuki. Geoffrey Gitobu's autopsy will be taking place today, with the police asking members of the public to desist from claiming that it is murder, saying that investigations will reveal the cause of his death. Now, anti-corruption activist John Githongo has submitted a damning affidavit at the Supreme Court in support of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga's presidential petition, alleging that a whistleblower confided in him on how he was part of a team that manipulated presidential results. Githongo's affidavit seeks to overturn Deputy President William Ruto's victory following his declaration as president-elect in the just concluded August 9 polls. In a well-detailed affidavit, the former journalist Githongo said that the whistleblower told him that he was part of 56 people dubbed the team and who had been recruited to allegedly infiltrate the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission system. Githongo further stated that the team had 10 supervisors who were guiding and directing the other 46 individuals who were recruited to access and manipulate Form 34A. We are following up on the developments at the Supreme Court and be sure that we'll be bringing you the very latest. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, no lack of water,
right.
or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that?
It's Wednesday morning and it looks like it's just started in many parts of the city today. We're looking at traffic coming off of the Thika Superhighway. It's not too crazy though, and it's likely to pick up as we get closer to 7 o'clock coming out of industrial area as well. That doesn't look too bad. Jogger Road traffic has already started as well. We're likely to see a build-up of that. Wednesday morning hasn't started off too badly. We'll keep an eye on things and see what's going on in your neck of the woods. Let us know what's happening. We want to keep things moving as much as possible. Get where we're going in one piece. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there about what's going on where you are.
SpiceFM Nyeri. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
How are you doing? Karibu to the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? It is actually Wednesday. How are you doing today? Many rumblings, many papers, many petitions, many everything. And still, here we are. How is your Wednesday, CT Moga?
It's good.
Good. It's good? What?
The only thing that I find strange is this weather.
I know yesterday it did a thing on us, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
The sun was shining the day before, and then yesterday, boom, back into winter.
Yes, but what I find particularly strange is how suddenly the temperatures drop.
Oh, hang on, City. Your book really is old. You know, yesterday when we were talking about it, I didn't really look at it. It's tattered.
So you thought, what did you think I was doing?
I thought it was just like an old book, many papers.
You think these are the tales of Canterbury?
It's actually tattered. It's falling apart.
Yes, it is.
Things fall apart, City. Literally, the center cannot hold in that book.
The center is still holding, but the outer being is on, which is
Good
clear in
grief.
tatters. When I told you, I did tell you, didn't I?
You did.
No, it's the sudden drop. You know, one moment it can be cool, then it just gets cold.
Cold.
Yes.
I know.
At first I thought perhaps I was unwell. It had nothing to do with being unwell. The temperatures had dropped. Yes.
Yes, they had significantly dropped yesterday, indeed. We're likely to see the fluctuation of patterns over the next couple of days. But they said, until the end of August. So let's wait and see. We'll all be good. Man in the chair, good morning.
You thought what?
Who?
Yourself.
When City said the book is old, you thought what?
I thought it was an old book. I didn't realize that things had literally fallen apart. I didn't realize that it was that bad.
I thought it was an old book.
Sheesh. I have now seen it with my own eyes.
Two.
Mama.
Your own two eyes.
Telling you.
What?
It's a serious something.
Big things.
That's it.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Karibu.
Asante sana. Shukuru Mungu.
Amina.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Today is Wednesday, the 24th day of August 2022. Just about 15 days after we went to the polls, and we have now 13 days until we get the verdict from the Supreme Court. Hoping it's a first and only verdict from the Supreme Court on this matter this year. Because,
Leonie 23rd.
24th.
But I thought so.
Okay. So, the conversation that we'll be having today, we will be joined by one of our good listeners. Her name is the Honorable who?
Grace. Yes.
The Honorable Grace will be here at 7 o'clock. She's a former woman rep for Baringo County, and she had her experience contesting for that seat, being in the National Assembly, representing the people of Baringo County, going back to going back to Baringo County and engaging with them. And also, well, she's been in the public domain, in the political space for a while, so she'll come and just give us her experience and what we as voters ought to do, our role as voters, and also, do we contribute to the kind of leaders that we end up with? Do we shape the way our leaders behave when they are in positions of authority? The Honorable Grace Kiptui will be here with us at 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we talk about the Africa Scout Youth Forum and the 18th Africa Scout Conference. We'll be joined by two guests. One of them is Grace Wanja Kamau. She's a Senior Assistant Scouting Development at the World Scout Bureau Africa Support Center. And the other person is Kathleen Michelle Godfrey. She's a chairperson of the Youth Advisors to the Africa Scout Committee 2018-2022 and the chair of the 9th Africa Scout Youth Forum. They'll be here to talk to us about this particular forum and also to understand the Scout movement and how far the movement has come and how far it wants to go into the future. 9 o'clock, we speak with the person who was the spokesperson, who has been the spokesperson for the Roots Party and the presidential campaign of Professor George Ojakoya and Justina Wamai. His name is Wilson Muirani, but he goes by the name Jemo Ulemse. So he'll come and tell us his experience, in that campaign trail. This was one campaign that was kind of different from the others in how it presented its message and all. And so he'll be here to talk to us about, targeting the youth and carving out some niche message in a campaign. That's 9 a.m. First, we talk about COVID.
All right, let's look at the numbers. Around the globe, 602,389,641 is what we're looking at in terms of global numbers. Let's look at what's happening in Kenya. 8 new cases from a sample size of 1,041. Positivity rate still remains sub 1. It's at 0.8%. 5 of them were Kenyans, 3 foreigners, and we're still looking at low cases of COVID in the country. So that is all right. Let's look at some news-making headlines in terms of COVID. 1 billion shillings is a fancy number, isn't it? And that is what is going to be granted to fight COVID through a mobile vaccination drive. The calls for vaccines still up. Kenya and the East African community have received 1 billion shillings that will be channeled through the Aga Khan Hospital, the Aga Khan Health Services, East Africa, and the German government. They will also support the public health system. It's offered through the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, through the German Development Bank, and will enable hospitals in Kisumu, Mombasa, and Dar es Salaam to increase access to COVID-19 vaccinations through vaccination drives and donations of relevant vaccine infrastructure to the public health system. That's a good thing, yeah?
So 1 billion shillings come from Germany to Aga Khan University, goes to hospitals in?
Aga Khan University and Aga Khan hospitals in Mombasa, Kisumu, and Dar es Salaam. Okay. And what it is boosting vaccination drives in these two countries through these two hospitals.
Okay.
They've committed to additional funds to its partners to respond to COVID-19. They've had a long-standing partnership, so they've been friends, amicus, with the Aga Khan University Hospital for some time. And they have hospitals, of course, in Kenya and Dar es Salaam, so they're looking at continuing this partnership through this funding. All right.
Okay.
An interesting story coming out of China. COVID has exacerbated the decline in births and marriages. National Health Commission says COVID-19 has had a clear impact on marriage and childbirth agreements of some people. Remember that China had just gotten to the place whereby they now started to see a declining population. And remember, there was the one child per family law that was in China. And they had gotten to the place in 2020 when they had said, okay, fine, we can allow more families to have more than one child, because we've seen that there's a declining population. Well, then COVID came in and said, nice try, but that's not going to happen. And because people were getting sick and becoming confined, people were not getting hitched and people were not getting having children. And so they've said that women are continuing to delay their plans to marry or have children, adding that the rapid economic and social developments have led to profound changes. So China can see would probably see a further decline in marriages and childbirth. Demographers have also said that China's uncompromising zero COVID policy on stamping out outbreaks may have caused profound, lasting damage to people's desire to have children. You can't go out, you can't socialize, you're not doing ABCD, your likelihood of meeting somebody or even hooking up then also declines. So they're probably looking at a place where the declining population that had been a worry before 2020 is still a worry in 2022 and likely to be a worry still in 2025.
If you don't have online dating in China.
Oh, well, you'd need a little bit more than online dating to actually do the deed and have a child, CT.
You start with online dating.
You start with online dating. It has not become immaculate just yet, at least not on Earth.
You start with online dating.
Mary and Joseph might tell you something different.
So to go a break.
We
are online on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. Are you online as well? Please let us know where you're tuned in from. Let's take this quick break at 18 minutes after 6. Take a look at the weather. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Unfold a whole new world of greater experience with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and enjoy the Get More Done device that's perfect for on-the-go productivity. Trade in your old device with Badili for the multitasker's ideal phone and get 25,000 shillings over traded in phone value. You can also get it now and pay later with Aspira at 0% interest for 6 months. So pre-order yours today and get a fold cover with S Pen, Samsung Care Plus and 24 months warranty. T's and C's apply.
Tunapozidi kuboresha sekta ya kilimo, tunakumbatia mbinu bora za kiteknolojia. Kwa wakulima wote, Standard Group PLC kupitia Farm Kenya itaandaa siku ya maonyesho ya kilimo ikiwashirikisha washikadau wa sekta mbalimbali. Maonyesho hayo yatazingatia kumudu ukulima na ufugaji ili kuboresha maisha nchini Kenya. Jiunge nasi katika uwanja wa Dumberi Stadium, kaunti ya Kiambu kutoka tarehe 1 hadi 2 mwezi Septemba kuanzia saa 2 asubuhi. Kushiriki, wasiliana na Caroline kupitia 0723-803-601 au barua pepe cnyandieka@standardmedia.co.ke. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Standard Group PLC na Farm Kenya.
Kenyans asked for a quality radio station to clean up the airwaves with mature, intelligent talk. They longed for a radio station that would bring back throwback hits from the golden era of music.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Sugar and spice. You are the sun, you are the rain.
As Kenya's #1 audio-visual radio station, SpiceFM turns 3 years old this week. We want to say a big thank you to all the listeners and viewers that keep us going with your loyal support. We do what we do because of you, and we can't thank you enough for constantly tuning in on the radio, online, and on TV. Here's to the next 3 years of sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul.
This morning at 13, highs of 23 today, and we'll see highs of 24 in Nakuru, where it's clear at 12. It's raining in Nyeri this morning at 13, highs of 21, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly clear Eldoret at 11. 22 on a rainy morning in Mombasa, highs of 28. And it's also raining in Malindi at 23. It'll go to highs of 28 today. Partly cloudy conditions at 18 in Kisumu, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 26 in a cloudy Kakamega at 14. The clouds are up in Kampala at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 16. And it's 20 and partly cloudy in Dar es Salaam. It'll go to highs of 29. It's 7 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 6. And it's raining in Lagos at 24. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23. 21 degrees and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 31 today. Looking out east into Beijing, it's sunny at 25 going into Wednesday afternoon. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 17. Paris is clear at 19, highs of 32 today. And we'll see highs of 28 in a cloudy London, currently at 20. It's 25 degrees and clear still Tuesday night in New York coming into Wednesday. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
It's 22 minutes after 6.
Good morning, everybody. True to that gang, Peter here in the house from Kiambu and just waiting what God has in store and what is the situation as we talk it over as adults. Okay, sawa. Tune in from Langata. That's where Viking is this morning. Muturi Kanini. Okay. He wants to know who is speaking today. See, Eric, we'll see if somebody's going to put those posters up in a minute.
Wakeni posters are today's speakers. Tafadhali. Safi.
Sawa.
Tutaweka sahi.
Joshua Monguru Ishmael says, Kutoka Kisi, good morning to you. John Amasongolo is tuned in as well. Biketi says, good morning. Good morning from Bugoma County. That is where David Miendo is. Wycliffe Juma says, good morning. He's tuning from Kisumu. Good morning to my people. You're all smiling today. That's super. Tuning from Gigiri. Love you all, says Nelly Elijah. Joseph from Ruai is tuned in. And Willie says, count me in. Well, we've counted you in. Karibu Sana. Alex says he's with us loud and clear, tuned in from where? Good morning, tuned in from Switzerland. That's where more heaven is this morning. Tuning from Arizona. Good morning. Wednesday locked. Yes, indeed. Robert Mbogo says he's tuned in as well. And from Kitale, that's where Nalianya is. And from Bungoma East, Richie's tuned in this morning. Says good morning to you all. Tuning from Orlando, Florida. Elizabeth Wanyoike Muli tuned in this morning. We see you. Ashley tuning from Machakos. Each and every one of you all. Asante sana for joining us.
Karibu. Mr. Muga. The proverb.
Last proverb.
From?
Chad.
Okay.
Final. If the man, not woman, according to this proverb, if the man in front of you falls into a hole, do not follow him.
Yeah.
If the man in front of you falls into a hole,
do not follow him.
Do not follow him. All right. So, and you said it's the man, not the woman.
Nope.
If
This
it was
proverb,
woman, it would be
they are
different.
specific, gender bias, clear.
Okay.
This one, if the man falls into the hole, do not follow him. I don't know what would happen if the woman fell into the hole, but this one is about the man.
Okay.
Yes.
If the man in front of you blew into a hole,
that's it. If you're wise,
do
just
not
let him stay where he is. You carry on with your other business, but don't follow him.
Pungulu Pangala.
Nope. You can try and remove him if you want, like don't follow him into that hole.
www.standardmedia.co.ke. If you want to know what's happening around the country, around the world, and particularly in this supreme petition, this is a portal to follow. This is the actual true portal, www.standardmedia.co.ke. What's on the front pages of the papers?
All right, so let's go to the front page of the Standard. Inside Ryla's evidence, there's a whole flurry of numbers there. And it says, Ryla, my case in numbers, 140,028 is looking at missing votes. 0.01%. It's not about the percentage, he says, but the number of votes it represents. 49.99999965. The current percentage of votes DP Ruto should have been assigned. 33,208 is the number of sample voters in 8 counties not given 6 ballot papers. 27 is the number of constituencies whose votes were not tallied and announced at the time of official declaration. And 2 is the number of counties whose election was postponed and where low voter turnout affected the Azimio final tally. We look into those stories and others coming out of the Standard. On the front page of The Nation, the smoking gun in Ryla's petition, claims of a hacker hub that intercepted photos of results forms, edited them, and then uploaded them onto the IEBC results portal, and confusion over how many Kenyans voted on the 9th of August formed the basis of several affidavits sworn by support Raila Odinga's case against Wafula Chebukati and William Ruto. This is not just about process or access, but the validity of the data.
Leo jamaa yako ya Star ulipatana naye?
Alikuwa kwa bara nini?
I don't know whether it's this weather. You know, you drive by there, it's a specific spot.
Yes.
So if it's not there, you wait. You wait 5 minutes, the guy isn't there, you figure, I might as well just.
Do you have his number?
No. Yes, I do have his number.
Have you tried calling him?
Yes. I usually call before I leave the house.
And what did he say?
Well, there was no response.
So 2 days, no response?
Yes.
Oh, no. I hope he's all right.
I also hope so. I'll call him in the course of the day. I have not called him in the course of the day. I'll call him in the course of the day to find out. Yes.
Okay. So then let's go back to this big one then. The Standard.
All right. Let me give you the story.
The case in numbers.
Story.
Story come.
Happy story, yo.
Good. Affidavit revelations, from questioning the figures and the authenticity of Forms 34A to claiming that President-elect William Ruto failed to attain the 50% plus 1 threshold. Azimio leader Raila Odinga's petition seeks to overturn the results or have the election called in his favor. We comb through the evidence and bring you insightful details. 3, 4, 6, and 7. But let's start on page 2 with that story. It's quite something. Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga has identified Bomet, Kiambu, Nyeri, and Meru as the counties where his votes were stolen in favor of Deputy President William Ruto. Raila and his running mate Martha Karua, in their petition at the Supreme Court challenging Ruto's win, claimed the counties were the epicenter of the rigging scheme in the DP's perceived strongholds. The duo cite 41 polling centres in Kiambu and Bomet, where their votes were allegedly deducted, adding to Ruto's tally, and the Forms 34A altered before being posted at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission public portal. Besides the petition filed by Raila and Karua, 7 other petitions have been filed in which the petitioners allege that systematic rigging and manipulation of votes in certain areas affected the integrity of the presidential election. They claim that the 2022 presidential election was so badly conducted that the illegalities and irregularities committed by IEBC in specific areas were of such a substantial nature that no court properly applying its mind to the evidence can validate the results. According to the petitioners, in all the 41 polling stations in Bomet and Kiambu, Raila's votes were deducted and Ruto's votes increased by the same number, while camouflaging the alterations as confirmed by different Forms 34A issued to agents and those uploaded in the IEBC portal. Now, as a result of this, Raila and Karua claimed they lost 2,793 votes from the 41 polling centres in Bomet and Kiambu, which were illegally added to Ruto. In Lurambi constituency in Kakamega, the Azimio leader claimed their votes were systematically reduced by 100 votes in specific polling stations and the original Forms 34A altered by someone who had access to the IEBC portal. They further cited 8 counties, Kwale, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Turkana, West Pokot, Vihiga and Migori, where the total number of presidential votes exceeded the number of other elective seats by 33,208 votes. In Othaya constituency, they claim their presidential votes totaling 18,287 could not be accounted for when Chebukati declared that only 44,205 voted for the president, while 61,000 voted for Senate and 62 for MP. They went through and through, but let's jump to the part where they talked about electoral malpractices. Human rights activists Helef Khalifa, George Osewe, Ruth Mumbi and Grace Kamau in their petition claim the voter register contributed to electoral malpractices. The activists, through their lawyers Willis Otieno, claimed that IEBC allowed 487,711 ghost voters to take part in the presidential election, thereby undermining the process. Raila and Karua further cited the postponement of governor elections in Mombasa and Kakamega counties as a basis for rigging. They argued that being strongholds of the Azimio leader, IEBC deliberately mixed up voting materials to occasion voting postponements, thus demotivating their support to turn up and vote. According to the petitioners, the postponement caused Raila more than 100,000 votes after the voter turnout in Mombasa reduced from the expected 56% to 44%, while in Kakamega it reduced from 72% to 62%. Now, like I said, there's a lot of numbers here that are being given out, but that forms the basis for the petition, the one from Raila and Karua, and also for the other petitions that have come across. And the story is following. IEBC has been accused of changing Forms 34A and 34B. Your math is wrong, is what Chebukati is being told. And we've also seen the affidavit sworn by John Githongo that there was a team of hackers who did the business on the portal.
Well, the Standard story is quite elaborate, even listing the constituencies where Raila is claiming that. So the physical copy and the copy on the form have different results.
Yes.
Total votes same. So, for example, in Bomet, Chapalungu Borut Primary School polling station 1 of 1. The physical copy that arrived at Bomas shows Raila had 61 votes, Ruto had 109, Wajakoya had 1 vote, total 171. Allegedly, on the portal, the votes tally now has Raila not at 61 but at 1 vote, Ruto not at 109 but 169 votes, Wajakoya still 1. Total, same, 171. So it's like 60 votes that Raila had on the physical form have been transferred and donated to William Ruto on the portal.
Okay.
and that's where they're raising. I'm actually opening the Borut Primary School on the forms. Want to see it. What it says. I want to download it. You click download and download. Okay. It is downloading. So I'm downloading, I'm looking at it. Yes, Raila Odinga Raila, the form on the portal in this Chapalungu Borut Primary School polling station 1 of 1 has Raila Odinga 1, William Ruto 169, Waihiga Mwaure 000, and Wajakoya 1, total 171. So the claim here is, what's on the portal?
Different from what's on the...
What came to Bomas? Different. Same number of votes, just a difference between Ruto and Raila. 60 votes deducted from Raila, added to Ruto on the portal, and so on and so forth. They go on into places. For example, The one that has the most number of votes deducted and added is 100, and this is Kiamba Kawaida Primary School polling station 1 of 6, where Raila has on the physical form 216, Ruto has 236. On the portal, Raila has 116, Ruto 336. So 100 votes from Raila goes to Ruto on the portal. But the form that then gets to arrive at Bomas has a different one. Now, I wonder what was tallied into Form 34B at the constituency tallying center. Was it the physical? Because it should be the presiding officer arrives with a physical copy to the tallying center, gives the returning officer the constituency. Returning officer of the constituency only relies on the physicals. And so he should have given Raila, in this particular case of Kiamba, 216. And so the Form 34B should have the 216 for Raila. When it goes to Bomas, they should be finding the 216 on the Form 34B. So it would be nice to understand, so what happened between the physical at polling station, the physical at constituency tallying center, the physical at Bomas, and at what point does the portal count?
This is a thing, and this is the confusion then that must be sorted out. Because it cannot be that you have one situation, which clearly you've shown us now, and then you have the flip. But then numbers, so which are you counting on? Are you counting on what's on the portal, or are you counting on what comes and shows up physically? And this is the anomaly that must be explained. And I think this is why it's been brought forward, isn't it? That it then must go and they have to explain exactly what has gone on. If it is found that this has been carried out in a way in which it ought not to have been, then there are going to be repercussions, aren't there?
Yeah.
Across board. And it's not, and this is the worrying thing, is that it's not one. It's not two either. There's several cases of this. And
Several.
Can it be that it was
and if you look at the form,
error, just a mistake?
If you look at the form on the portal, it's not those ones which have been crossed out or smudged somewhere.
No.
It's very,
It's
very cleanly written. 001 for Raila, 169 for Ruto in Chapalungu Borut Primary School polling station.
And then on the portal is something.
It does not have any kind of things that have been crossed out or recrossed or whatever. And the agents who signed for this are an agent for UDA, for CCM, for ANC, for NVP. And the presiding officer, Alfred Kipkoech, and the deputy presiding officer, Eric Kiplagat Tunui.
Doesn't look good, man.
It's just confusing. I'd like to see the physical form as well to add on to it. Anyway, let's take a break and then we'll continue looking at more headlines. So from today, something major is happening on Showmax, Ndu?
County 49. Did you know there was a County 49?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's County 49.
Is it in the Supreme Court?
District, was it 9, 15 or 20? This district where there were aliens.
Yeah, where the aliens keep going.
Well, you're going to have to watch it and see. But Showmax is premiering tomorrow, actually, this new County 49. It's a new series. It's, a make-believe county in Kenya, of course, and showing issues on governance. It's showing issues on leadership, and it's really, really one to watch. Could actually, fuel your thinking into the next couple of weeks. But Showmax has done it again, and it's something that you ought to watch. The premiere is tomorrow, and we'll look into the details of exactly what County 49. It's called Bwatele County 49. It's premiering on Showmax tomorrow, and it's one to watch. That's for sure.
All right, 20 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so what are we looking at? It's building up a little bit here on Jogo Road, not so bad on Landis. We're probably going to see that build up later. Then getting into the CBD is where you see some action right now. Coming off a Thika Superhighway, a little bit of traffic here and there just past Survey out towards the Pangani underpass. But further ahead, nothing much. Coming out of Westlands is a breeze. You should be able to be in and out with not too much of an issue. Into other parts of the city, you should be fine as well. We're just looking at the early pickings of traffic this Wednesday, and hopefully we can keep things, down to a manageable level and it won't go crazy. But you know what they say, knock on wood. Let's wait and see what happens later. Talk to us about what's happening where you are on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Oh, tangazo. If you have in any county and not Kakamega or Mombasa, please know that tomorrow is a big day because your governor-elect will be sworn into office. It is tomorrow, okay? So look out for the invitation. If you have not been invited, make noise. Higher. Page 8 of The Nation this morning. The Ministry of Health and the health authorities in Nakuru have differed over the announcement of a swine flu outbreak in the county.
Okay.
According to the Ministry of Health, headquartered in Nairobi, Republic of Kenya, none of the samples taken to the influenza reference laboratory turned positive for swine flu, one of the strains of the H1N1 influenza A. What we picked from the results was the seasonal cold and not the swine flu strain as earlier reported. The samples tested positive for H1N1, which has numerous categories of flu. I don't know why they had to settle on swine flu. This is none other than the Acting Director General of Health, Patrick Amoth.
Still acting?
He will act for a bit longer. Dr. Amoth said an outbreak of swine flu is not something that should be taken lightly and is faulting the county for making the announcement without involving the Ministry of Health. The H1N1 virus was commonly referred to as swine flu because in the past, infections happened in people who had been in contact with pigs. However, that changed a few years ago when a new virus emerged in people who had not been in contact with the animal. Dr. Amoth says issuing a statement that explains the global picture is only done by the Ministry of Health after thorough tests have been done and the situation confirmed. He is citing the case of a child that died, and Dr. Amoth said it's unlikely that that child died from swine flu, but says scientists are still investigating. How it is now, our science will be put into question. We really want to understand what made them arrive at swine flu. Dr. Amoth said the announcement puts Kenya in an awkward position because now Kenya has to alert the African Union and the World Health Organization, yet there is no case of a report of swine flu.
Are they allowed to be prophetic about these things?
That swine flu could be coming.
Yes.
It looks like it.
The Form 34A for African Union and 34B for WHO does not have prophecy.
Okay.
As a column.
Okay. Then let's leave the word prophecy because it sounds a bit religious. Is it possible also that you can perhaps predict? Is predict a better word?
It does not have future expected. It says report current.
Inishida.
So now the Nakuru authorities have reported current, and Dr. Amoth is saying, you're reporting current what? So
Wait now. But they tested the thing, they said it's swine flu.
the Nakuru guys are saying it's swine flu.
They tested, Abby?
They
Or they
say
just
it's-
looked and said this one? Or they tested?
They tested and they're saying it's swine
Scientific
flu.
process, swine flu.
They got
Trace.
H1N1.
Trace. Abby?
H1N1. Amoth is saying H1N1 is broad. It's swine flu and others. You don't just see H1N1 and
Then
call
we
it
say
swine.
flu. It could be anything else.
Yes.
But it is not swine
You've
flu.
got to go deeper
So-
to find out it's swine.
But is Dr. Moth saying it is not swine flu?
He is saying what has been taken to the influenza reference laboratory has turned positive.
Once upon a time. Start again.
He says none of the samples taken to the influenza reference laboratory has turned positive for swine flu.
But the people in Nakuru, it turned positive for H1N1.
Yes.
Yes.
Sawa. Nimeelewa.
So
Sasa
this is
hiyo
what now he
certificate
says.
yako.
We are going to investigate the laboratory where the tests were done, the equipment, and whether the interpretation of the data was correctly done. Imetoka huko Nakuru huko blah blah blah
It's called
blah.
due diligence.
Ikakuja headquarter.
Let it be due diligence and let it not be witch hunting.
Yes.
Yeah, let it not be fault finding. Let it be a scientific process that seeks to determine where the truth lies.
Yes.
Then it will be a good thing.
And then also establishes proper procedure. So
Yes.
you guys,
Yes.
if you come
In the
across this-
future.
if you come across this, immediately alert us, because this is major. If it's swine flu, it's big. Come across it before you announce. Talk to us. We take it straight to our
Influenza lab.
We test, we confirm, then we announce.
But don't just go and be talking without telling
No.
us.
It has global implications.
That's all. Of course it does. Yeah.
It's like, let's say, for instance, some other county in this country pronounces that they have monkeypox. You know, we're going to have a problem here.
Big one.
Just the little one.
Just saying it, yes. There's some pronouncements, you know. It isn't like you announcing the outcome of the elections for an MCA. It's very different.
Yeah.
Because an MCA is not infectious. These diseases are infectious.
One might argue differently, but okay.
Anyway, City.
You know, we had a census. Remember?
Yes.
Yes.
In Kenya.
When you ask if you have a boat.
Yes, we had a census in Kenya. Now, Tanzania is preparing for one. Okay?
It started actually.
Yes. And with an eye on the 2025 election. Okay? Saying it's the first one in over 10 years. You know, there's been this hit and miss predictions about the population of Tanzania. Is it 42 million? Is it 55 million? Is it 65 million? This will now set things right. Now, the thing that caught my attention with this is an article in the East Africa now, on page 11, okay? Is how they go about registering their voters. They're saying that part of this exercise, partly, is to get an upgrade of the voter registration. Meaning you are going to look at the numbers of people who've gone above the age of 18. Okay? And then with that, you will take it that anyone who's above that age of 18 and above is an eligible voter.
Yes.
So they want to not just update, but they want to sort out and put right the voter register so that they will know. Now, they're including something because according to this article, the implication that previously it wasn't there. You know, in Kenya, you have households, okay? It's called household demographics.
Yes. Right.
Do you own a bicycle? Do you own a
Yeah,
TV? Yes. How many children? How many
children do you own?
Yes. Yes. And do they own an education? All these things may seem like they're innocuous, but they're not. They help inform you if indeed you have what in African terms we may call a fledgling middle class, lower middle class, suffering class, okay, etc., etc., etc. But the demographics are important. Now, again, it is important when people put things in place, but they also give details as to how they want to go about it. Ahead, 2025. 2025 is 3 years from now. It just sounds like it's far. And 3 years will come quickly. And if these things are not in place, or they go about their business like the way we did, until the last moment, we're still talking about, have we done this? Have we printed this? Have we moved this way? I dare say the elections may have a similar problem to ours.
Okay.
Because people learn from their neighbors.
So, but what is the nexus between the number of people in the election? The census and the election?
Well, it tells you who is where and how many people are in one place. And then when you now want to look at the demographics that feature in the elections as to who votes for who where. Remember, Tanzania doesn't have a fledgling opposition. It has a vibrant, a robust opposition.
Yes.
Now, census will tell you, for instance, if the opposition has strongholds. For instance, this is my submission of it. It's not in this article. It will be able to tell you, these people have increased tenfold. So come the next election, we may actually have a serious problem on our hands when it comes to. Okay.
I get it. I'm just wondering why this article seems to be suggesting, or the way you've put it, that they are conducting a census this year in preparation for the election, as if it's the primary reason why they're
they would
conducting
have
a
a
census.
Well,
and yet voters is about registered voters. It's not
It is
everybody
true.
in Tanzania.
It is true.
who
In fact,
votes.
the headline for this article was Tanzania to hold first head count in a decade with eye on 2025 election. And it was a joint report by the East African team. I also asked myself the question, so how often do they have their...
Is it not every 10 years normally?
It is assumed that way. Yes, it is assumed that way. But according to this article, that has not necessarily been the case.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ndu.
Yes.
Tell us.
Return cane and arrest cases of students unrest, according to CS Magoha. It would appear to me that the CS needs to pick a battle.
Who's Kane?
Kane.
No, Kiboko.
Oh, okay.
And the reference here is not to a hippo. No.
Neither it is to Tamu. Anyway, there are many other things that are happening in the education sector. We don't know if we're going to have enough schools next year for move from, to JSS. We don't know. But, he seemed to be hell-bent on this thing of, beat them up so that they can, figure out how to behave. Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has called for the return of corporal punishment in schools to arrest the rising cases of indiscipline amongst learners. In rooting for the reintroduction of the cane to instill discipline, the CS noted that children should not be allowed excessive freedoms. Okay. He urged parents to discipline their children instead of leaving the task to teachers. Corporal punishment was banned in 2001. And in place, the Children's Act that entails protecting children from abuse and violence then was enacted. He says we need to introduce caning in schools, like yesterday. And parents should discipline children and stop expecting your teachers to do the impossible. It is possible to discipline your children and be assertive to them to remain children. He was presiding over the launch of the re-engineered National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Magoha urged stakeholders to start a national conversation on parenting and discipline in schools. He says, we shall not handle children with kiddie gloves. Well, all right. It is not time for children to dictate what is supposed to be done. We cannot give children what they want. They must be directed to live a normal life. I know there are many things that he's saying here. He made the remarks in the wave of an inferno that destroyed property at Kisumu Boys High School. While addressing the press, he affirmed that parents would have to bear the cost of the damages following the fire incident that came 2 days after schools reopened for the second term. Magoha warned learners behind the incident to desist from disrupting the school calendar. And we saw that they said, look, the school has burnt down in part. We are not closing the school. People have donated tents and mattresses, talala, poinje, and we will continue reading. We are not closing the school. And those of you, all of you will contribute to the rebuilding because that's what's going to happen. He says, we've buried our heads in the sand for too long, especially from the point of view of parenting. If you want to know the challenges we have in parenting, talk to school principals, he said. So he's saying, look, if you're not going to do it, then allow us to beat them in school. That's what he's saying. And on NEMIS, he was talking about some other things on NEMIS, and he was talking about capturing, storing, and retrieving information as we go into the registration for JSS in January.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you.
By the way,
Yeah.
the good professor is a medical doctor, but he's being a tad too prescriptive. I mean, you want to solve a very complex problems by issuing his edicts. Unless that is a summary of what he said and they've misquoted and misplaced what he said. Want to introduce caning because it's going to solve which problem exactly?
And yesterday.
And you want to treat children no longer with kids' gloves, meaning what exactly?
Meaning nabembeleza watoto sana.
Is that really the case?
Child comes here and says, tunataka blue band. Choma shule.
All the recommendations that have been
made. The chronology of events.
No,
msichome akibaba, msichome shule. Then wanachoma shule.
The question should be, what is it? Let's start with what is it that caused the fire at Kisumu Boys? Okay, there was a fire, no question about it.
Yes.
What caused it?
They've not been able to find out exactly.
Someone lit the fire.
They've not
That's
been able
what they're
to find out
saying.
exactly what
But
happened.
is it the only way that a fire can be caused? Someone lighting it? The answer is no.
No.
Okay. The issues surrounding problems within schools, Why is it being glossed over? Well, all the recommendations that have been made over the years, that we've had problems in schools, whether it's unrest, whether it is something similar, why is it that a pronouncement of some punitive action seems to be the solution? It is not the solution. It can't be the solution. No.
And look, and this is interesting because it came from him, and then he went silent. Then he came back and said, "Well, let's talk with our children." Now he's come back and said, "No."
People,
Gaming.
He's saying, let's also consider being a little bit, more direct with our children.
Or
Right.
more involved. I think the involvement is, from what he's saying, the involvement in the behavior of children from a parenting point of view has to be more deliberate. And on that, I agree with him 100%.
But are you suggesting that he's
However-
saying that it isn't direct, that parents have not been doing that?
That's
Yes,
How does
that's
he know
exactly
that?
what he's saying.
How does he know that?
He's saying talk to the school principals. You find out
Even
that
with-
the involvement of parents in their children's lives actually is minimal.
That's the feedback he gets from his officers.
From principals.
They say that. They say that's how
telling
we
him.
engage. That's also the feedback that he gets from parents. When he says, let the children stay at home, what feedback does he get from parents? Wanamaliza chakula. So he's like, surely, if that is your major concern, that these children have maliza in chakula, so let them go back to school, what does that imply?
No. The reasons that I read and hear about are selective. It can't be that is what forms the fundamental issues that surround this problem that we're talking about. This thing is far more complex than it's being presented.
It is. And I think this thing is laced with a certain uncomfortability about dealing with these issues head on. And I will not agree to say that it is one sector of this demographic that is to blame. It isn't. That everything needs to be looked at in its entirety and dealt with. And I think there's some uncomfortable situations, that conversations that people do not want to have. And it needs to be had.
People, including parents.
Yes, that's what I said, everybody. Everybody.
But you see, if you're going to look into it, then the question then must be asked, as you say correctly, why is it then that these conversations aren't being had? If parents, it's being argued, are at the center of these issues, then why is it that parents are at the center of these issues? Because the understanding when you make such a statement that there was a time when they were at the center, so now they are not. So why are they not at the center?
What has changed?
Yes. What is it that's making them not be central to this entire discussion?
But I do agree that gliding edicts like this cannot be the solution. It has to be inclusive. It has to be inclusive.
In a minute, let me tell you about 3 robbery with violence and gang rape convicts would have gone scot-free had technology not been deployed, leading to their arrest a year after committing the offence. King Josper Odhiambo, Elias Ochuka, Collins Omondi and Anthony Mutua robbed and killed Patrick Kaimenyu Wanjohi on the night of September 16, 2017 at Sentikumi in Likoni, Mombasa. They then went on to gang rape a woman who was with Wanjohi. Wanjohi, who was a health worker at Tibuani Dispensary, and the woman had just left an eatery around 9 p.m. when they were attacked by 6 people who stole his Sony mobile phone worth 5,000 bob and a phone worth and clothes worth 27,600. In 2018, almost a year later, Martin Kioko was found with Wanjohi's mobile phone, leading to his arrest. However, charges against him were later dropped after he explained how he got the phone. He then became a state witness. Kioko disclosed to investigators that Odhiambo had given him the gadget 2 days after Wanjohi was killed. Now, that story continues. It's an interesting one. It's on page 9 of The Nation. If we get a moment, we'll tell you more details about it. But it basically says these guys have now been sentenced to hang. And this is because technology was deployed to, one, nab them and place them at the scene of crime and place them at the scene of murder and gang rape. And
will they hang? The death.
That's the second part.
Yeah.
The death penalty has not been carried out in
Kenya.
Many years.
Yeah.
Anyway, time for the news. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua now claim the presidential election had been rigged way before the August 9th. In sworn affidavits filed in the Supreme Court, Raila and Karua cited external infiltration, a complicit IEBC chairman, and doctored Forms 34A, adding that Wafula Chebukati masterminded the subversion of the will of the people, accusing them of treason. Raila and Karua claimed 19 foreigners and 2 Kenyans had access to the IEBC system, compromising the integrity of the election systems. In a 6-page affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court, Raila states that he was aggrieved by the declaration of William Ruto as president-elect with 7.1 million votes against his 6.9 million votes. And in a detailed 45-page affidavit, Azimio's deputy presidential candidate Martha Karua claimed there were 21 individuals who had access to the IEBC system, compromising the security and integrity of the presidential election. Karua stated that out of the 21 individuals, 19 were foreigners and 2 were Kenyans. Now, 3 petitioners have moved to court to seek an interpretation of the Elections Act on powers conferred to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission chairman on declaration of results. Through their lawyer Ashford Kome, Michael Asola and Eric Gedinji want the Constitutional Court to make an urgent determination over the said section of the Election Act so as to shed light as to whether the decision by IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati was within law. They argued that the certificate issued to the president-elect William Ruto remains valid unless overturned by the Supreme Court. The trio stated that it is only the IEBC chair who can declare presidential candidate and who has been validly elected in an election. They argue that the urgent application will be placed before a vacation judge for orders and directions. And IEBC is today expected to submit its response at the Supreme Court regarding the petitions filed against the presidential results as announced by Chairman Wafula Chebukati. In the responses, IEBC is expected to respond to several issues raised in the petitions, including whether the results announced by the Commission were the authentic results at the polling stations, whether the IEBC database was infiltrated, and with the purpose of interfering with the election results, among many others. The Commission is also expected to address the differences among the commissioners, where 4 commissioners walked out of Bomas of Kenya disputing the results. This is the clip of the commissioners who walked out of Chebukati while he was announcing the president-elect.
We are saying we have upped the standards of election in this country. We have step by step faced the challenges that have been there. At the same time, we have ensured that things are running despite everything else. Now, we are not at Bomas of Kenya because we cannot take ownership of the results that is going to be announced because of the opaque nature which these results have been handled.
We wait to see the responses from the IEBC chairperson and the Commission at large before the Supreme Court. Now, former Independent Electoral Boundaries Commissioner Rosalina Kombe has regretted the recent incidents of harassment and attacks meted out on poll agency staff who oversaw the August 9th general election. In a message posted on Twitter, Kombe stated that it is time to stop the senseless incidents. Her remarks came hours after police confirmed Gishugu returning officer Geoffrey Gitobu had collapsed and died while in Nanyuki. The police said the matter as it stands is a case of sudden death until an autopsy that is scheduled to take place at 9 a.m. today reveals the cause of death.
The report was of sudden death of somebody who had collapsed in town. He was rushed to the hospital, and at the hospital it was confirmed that he was dead. So no person has killed another one, and no person has been brought here that he has killed another one. And no case of murder or manslaughter has been reported here. We are opening an inquiry, which already we have opened an inquiry. The post-mortem will be done, so we shall be knowing what is the cause of his death. For now, it is a sudden death, and we take it like that as a sudden death.
The autopsy will be taking place at 9 a.m. and we are focused on the results that will come out of that examination in Nanyuki. We will be keeping you updated in our subsequent news bulletins. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseda. Good morning.
All right, we're looking at a build-up of traffic then. It's when it's starting a few minutes after 7 o'clock. Coming off Outer Ring, we're going to feed off traffic coming off Manyanja as well as Juja and Kangundo roads. It's also looking pretty heavy on Jogo Road going out towards the city, and where we thought it wouldn't happen on Landis Road this morning, I'm sorry, but it is. As you're going towards Kamkunji, it's building up quite some as well. Into the CBD, coming off the Thika Superhighway, and we're seeing some traffic as well here. Kiambu Road in and outbound traffic has started to do that thing now, as it has on Limuru Road as well. Coming out of Westlands, Ring Road Westlands looks all right. In and outbound traffic has begun. James Gishuru, as you approach Wayaki Way, is also doing that morning traffic business. Let's keep an eye on things and see how it progresses going towards 7:30. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there and keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, 7 minutes after 7. Good morning. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. It's Wednesday, 24th day of August 2022. The 15th day after we went to the polls and cast our ballot and chose our leaders. We are going to be talking about a diagnosis of the Kenyan voter. Are we very good citizens as voters? Are we our own worst enemy? That's a conversation we'll be having, and we have a guest in the studio, one of very good listeners of this show. Now that we are celebrating 3 years of Spice FM, it's good to engage with the people who've been engaging with us since the very beginning. But before we introduce her, let's hear the day's proverb. City?
Yes, this is a proverb from Chad, the final proverb from the country of Chad. It has a distinct gender bias. If the man in front of you falls into a hole, do not follow him.
Please.
If the man in front of you falls into what?
A hole, do not follow him. Says nothing about helping him get out of the hole. Just don't follow him.
Don't follow him into the hole.
Yes.
Okay. Pungulu Pangala. What did Pungulu Pangala have? I mean, it's very good on onomatopoeia, but
super. It's actually good.
It's exactly what happens when things fall apart,
yes,
isn't
it's
it?
the African version of higgledy-piggledy.
Wow.
No, the Kenyan version. The IEBC, so, yes.
Pungulu Pangala. Okay, they can have a Tungulu Twangala. There's something different. There's a song. Yes.
For real?
You haven't heard that song?
No, I have not.
Also going where Tungulu Tungulu Twangala Twangala Tungulu Tungulu. You haven't heard that song?
I really have
Eric,
not.
the things you listen to.
Oh my God.
Where would I?
Just leave. All right? You will hear it.
Well, I've heard it now.
Mombi has heard it. Mombi,
You've
you've
heard a
heard
song
it, right?
called Twiggly what?
It's a Tungulu Tungulu Twangala Twangala.
Now you're just making stuff up.
Senator Sylvia Kasanga will call and tell you.
This hour,
I'm
I'll
sure
even
it's
ask
one of
her.
her favorite songs.
I've recorded you singing that. I'll send it to her.
Tungulu Tungulu Twangala Twangala Tungulu Tungulu.
May I have come to respect the things you listen to, Eric.
Kabisa, sindio?
Big time.
Yes. Honorable Grace Kiptui is a former woman rep for Baringo County and one of the very good listeners to the show, has been calling and contributing to all the conversations that we've had. We're celebrating 3 years, Mheshimiwa Grace. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Our birthday is also a birthday to you. Okay, so happy birthday to us.
Thank you so much.
Mheshimiwa,
Yeah.
You are a former woman rep for Baringo. When did you
I
serve?
am the first woman rep. When you say former, when I'll be 100 years, there will be a train of formers.
Yes.
So I better maintain my lead.
The pioneer woman rep for Baringo
the
County.
First, yes, I'm
right?
the first.
Well. Served 5 years after being elected by the people of Baringo County.
Yeah.
At a moment when this seat had just been introduced via the constitution. And now it was you versus other women candidates going across the county and campaigning for the seat.
Yes.
So very many things, of course, you were facing for the first time. Was it your first time getting into politics then?
Yes. But not the first time playing politics.
Okay. Getting into politics and playing politics.
Participating first time. But being involved, I've been for a very long time.
What have you been doing? What's the involvement?
Majorly campaigning for people whom I thought would help the community. Doing a lot of civic education in the media. And of course, as an advocate of the High Court, occasionally I help leaders. Either invest their money or, help them generally with ideas and issues.
This is the power of grassroots mobilization. Yeah. So you'd used it before. You are identifying candidates, aligning yourself with candidates, campaigning for them, and mobilizing voters for them getting elected or them not getting elected. And now it was your turn. Was it different this time when now it's you who's going to say, don't vote for, it's not about so and so, it's about me?
Actually, what happened is that I've been doing civic education for like a period of 8 years. So that voice was known. The face was not known. But the minute I said I wanted to run, everybody said, why not? So you've been with us all this time and we know they could almost know what was in my mind and what I stand for.
When you say your voice was known, what does that mean?
Yeah?
When you say your voice was known and not the face?
Of course, I had not moved to each and every part of the county or Rift Valley for that matter. So people know me, but some may not have seen my face. But they didn't mind. So long as it was me, welcome.
Meaning it was a voice that people associated with civic education. Many people had heard your voice. They knew the name. And then when you decided now to jump into the waters of politics, they now knew who this voice was.
Besides being in the airwaves, I was also a constant figure in the county. And of course, with my practice, I interacted with so many middle-class people from my community, for instance. So it was not hard. Even them, they put in a word for me. That she's an integral person, I think she'll do a good job, and it wasn't difficult.
What made you take an interest in politics?
As I was busy doing the civic education, especially around 2007, when we had a lot of the campaign of 2007 was like no other. And for instance, in my county, Moi had just retired. People had come in 2007 whom I really did a lot to make them get the seat. So teaching them those issues about leadership, what is the role of the voter, what's the role of the leaders, what. I delved into the understanding. And even during the constitutional making process, I used to really do a lot of teaching on that. So when it was decided now that these new seats are coming up, I felt like I needed to go and lay the foundation, especially for the women leadership. The second thing, my mission was to go and help people economically get empowered. That was the major thing. Because I really hated seeing people in poverty. I didn't like it. From my background, how I grew up and all that, I really wanted to push poverty as far as possible.
And so you wanted to be part of the change.
Yes.
In the
and
community.
I knew it is possible. Having come from there, down in Gario Valley, I would look back and say, I find like my classmates are in where I left them. And I felt like I really needed to pull. Let them also see that life can be better.
Sure. It's interesting that you talk about these two things, understanding the importance of voting for people in the community, and then also talking about economic empowerment, and then being as far away from poverty as possible. In the mobilization or the education of, voters in the community, were you able to make the link? Could they see that many things concerning economic activity and empowerment then are hinged directly on the person whom you vote? Were they able to make that connection?
Mostly around 2007. You remember in Kalenjin land, it was the first time we ever had so many women in parliament. There were 7 in number. And I would want to say that it came as a result of me trying to make them understand that it is not fair to discriminate women and not to send them to parliament. For example, South Rift, before 2007, they had never elected a woman to parliament. And the mission was, when you take women to parliament, they will get confused, they get lost. In Nairobi, they see many bright lights and they will just lose it up. Yeah. So I was able to convince them that when you get your children, you take them to school, boys, girls, up to the end. Even when they work, you appreciate the ladies. When they step forward to get into a political seat, you raise the bar. Oh, a married woman cannot do this. Oh, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they got it. And I used to tell them, make sure you send the women. If you think they will get lost, send the women who are learned. And that's how you saw people like Sally Koskei, Professor Kamar, Professor Sambili, all those. Yeah. They got it. So I'm a firm believer that when people are given the right information, they make the right choices.
They do. And understanding the responsibility, because I think this is it, that you get into an election period like what we have just come out of now, are currently still in, and then people will, exercise that vote at the election and then forget about it for the next 4.5 years or the next 5 years. But then we've been told that it is a process through which you must continuously engage. Do we have people plugging into that, or is it just, I'm going to vote during an election and that is it? In terms of going beyond and holding your leaders accountable, things like this?
Unfortunately, from where I sit, I don't think that conversation continues after the election. And the voter's mind is kind of corrupted during electioneering period, where instead of looking at what somebody can do, there comes this charmer man, the big man syndrome. Then he starts telling them to pick a suitie, irrespective of whether somebody knows what they are going to do, or they have the passion to go and serve the community and all that. And then everybody sings suitie. And immediately after the elections, then they start asking, who is this we elected? We didn't know this person. Oh, we were just told in the suitie. And the voter keeps on suffering year in, year out, because they don't get their rightful share. Because generally politicians are self-centered kind of, especially some, majority, but not all.
Mashima, let me ask you this question. What do you think it is, from what you say, that drives people into believing that what a politician preferably a senior politician tells them is what they must do. Where you are told, vote 6Ps, and you vote 6Ps. That question you're asking, surely. I mean, we see people asking questions and we see people going against the suit, but it's in a minority cases. From where you come from, what do you think it is that gets people in this position where they feel they should just follow what it is that they're told?
I think there are several factors. Number one is ignorance. I feel there is a very big vacuum when it comes to educating the masses. Whose responsibility is it in this country to make sure that even laws that are passed in parliament, these people get to understand? Whose role is it?
Who's been given that role by laws?
Well, the media, I find them trying, and I don't know. I have not seen a concerted effort.
As someone who's been a member of parliament, okay, by virtue of the county position you held, would you think that perhaps it is the duty of people like yourself who are elected into parliament to actually explain, because you are there by virtue of people electing you
to represent
them? Yes. So is it also not part of your duty to represent them and getting them to understand the things that they sent you to do for them?
It may be, yes, you try, but there isn't a well-documented or a well-set area that says the leader has a day or some formula or a way to talk to these people.
There's no framework, huh?
Because first thing, once you are elected, the voter, I had said that one thing is ignorance. I think the other one is fear. People are made to fear that if you don't get to follow this route, something terrible will happen. You will not get Mandela. I don't know, something. Some fear, a lot of fear. And so people coalesce around our person. You know, it becomes tribal, politics being local and all that. So that thing is exploited to the extent that these voters, they don't choose the person whom they know will surely serve them. And then the issue of poverty also, as I was saying, this handout issue is very destructive. Because the minute you get into the power, you're made to become an ATM without a pin. You are supposed to take care of everything and everybody.
This is the expectation of the voter.
That is the expectation.
That we have elected you.
Yes.
You've gone to Nairobi.
You are earning $1 million.
You've gone to Nairobi. You're earning $1 million. Bring the money.
Yes.
Okay. So, but in the expectation that in every lawmaking, as a representative of the people, you're going to engage with them and tell them, so there's this piece of legislation that's coming, or there's a policy that's being rolled out by government, or this is the direction, the general direction that the government is taking, and this is where we can take advantage. Is that not civic education?
It is, but apparently by the time you assemble people, you better be ready with some money.
You have to
and the more you continue engaging them, trying to make them understand, they are scratching their head and saying, this lady is taking so much time.
Too much English.
Utupatie tuendange. You see? So they may not even be in a frame of mind to absorb what you are saying.
So is it the same thing then? If you cannot engage them at that point when you're representing them, they elected you, you're representing them, you're coming to give them feedback and progress reports, and this is what is happening in Nairobi, and this is what I'm doing to represent you. And they're saying, let's take it to you to 20.
You are talking too much. They even said, there was a time they were saying, we need to increase listening allowance because you are keeping us here for much longer. You know? Increase the listening allowance because you needed to have sorted us out we go.
So whatever the message was not landing home. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it is very
because
difficult when there is no election for people to listen to anything.
Right. So then how do you, from what you see, how do you then cross over from where, crowds of people are coming to listen to something not necessarily to hear what it is that's going to be said, but because they know that there's going to be something that will then be put into their hand later on. And here we are saying that we need to have a more governance, or a more civic approach to population. How then because we're moving forward and saying, how do you deal with that? We've had politicians, who've come here and told us very clearly that you have no business talking to a crowd. If you don't have money in your pocket, they're not going to listen to you. And neither are you assured that whatever it is you've said to them, they will really take it home later. And they will deem you unserious if you're not handing out this money on a regular basis. So where did it start? Did the politicians start handing out, or did the population start demanding it?
This is something I want even you guys to help me crack today. Where did we go wrong as a country to an extent that leaders are supposed to be ATMs instead of doing what is in the law, that their role in the law?
If you ask me, the genesis is with the politician.
Of yesteryears.
Yes, it is with the politician, because in my own backyard, I remember in the days when, even before, when there was this push towards multipartyism, and having a public rally required you to get a permit from a chief, which was almost next to impossible. So many leaders of the time in my neck of the woods would choose funerals to deliver their messages, because at a funeral you can talk. And the term at that particular point was taxpayer. That's the term they used. And they were saying, when these KANU MPs come to you with money, it is your money. You pay taxes, so take it. Don't shun it. Take it. Now, what you've just asked, the question you've asked, gets to the heart of now what I refer to as the eventual consequences of something that people begin without realizing how it's going to morph and become a complete monster. Now, this is what happened. The voter prior to that didn't look for handouts.
Yes. When the chief called for a meeting,
people went. If an MP came to visit, in fact, most members of parliament were considered religious people because the church communities embraced them. They were members of the community. They are people who everyone related to. But the moment the money element came in, then if you didn't have money, and you see it just grew, and the amounts that were being demanded grew, and the amounts that were being spent grew. So here we are. It's now entrenched, and it's normal. So we stop talking of hundreds of thousands, we start talking of millions. Nowadays we talk of billions.
And soon we'll be in trillions.
Yes.
So it was entrenched by
its politicians.
And also it's a move from, you see, like you're saying, in the KANU days, if there was going to be a meeting, the chief would mobilize the people. So it wasn't that it's not a negotiation. Funga duka iko mkutano.
And everyone knew it was, or whether it was on a Tuesday. Chiefs' meetings were known, the days were known, the times were known.
And the day Mheshimiwa is coming, the MP funga duka, Mheshimiwa is coming.
Yes.
So it's sort of like, top to bottom, and it's an order. You must attend this meeting.
Yes.
And then now starting to, because of trying to fight, this guy is able to mobilize a meeting using the chief, and you're trying to fight him as an opposition person, and you've already been branded. You know you'll never get a permit to hold a meeting, so you go to the rally, and in order to demonize the person, you say, kula pesa yake.
Yes.
I'm a daughter of a chief, a chief of Kenyatta's age, kind of. And I saw people bring gifts to my father.
Yes.
They were not demanding.
No.
When he calls for a meeting, people would come, and they didn't even have phones or anything. They used to use a horn, There was a high place in the community where you would go blow the horn, and people know there will be a meeting tomorrow. And they come. And some bring even gifts to give it to him. It was not about, you have called us, so I want fare back, I want lunch, I want ABCD. But somewhere along the line, as City is saying, we messed it up.
No, the politician introduced it. I mean, the politician himself has morphed into somebody who actually started off to help people. Because in those days, there wasn't much in terms of salaries.
No.
No. So really, if you take it further to the representative of the people at the local level, what we call councillors, those time it was voluntary. You could have a job that you do, but you volunteered and you are a councillor. Essentially, these were people who wanted to see the communities change and benefit.
And leave alone that.
Yes.
It was never about you stepping forward and saying, I want a seat. People would even approach
you and say, come and take up
you,
this position.
Or if you are a young man, your father.
Yes.
They tell him, let us have this young man. And not even to lead. They were saying, aenda achunge, ng'ombe, kitu kama hiyo. Akwe shepherd.
Yes.
We want him to be a shepherd.
Angalia maslahi yetu.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they would look, before they approach, they would check the family line. Are these people who are good people? Are they integral? Are they hardworking? Are they what? Then they just approach but now, some guy comes from nowhere. You don't even know whether they have ever seen leadership.
Or if there's madness in their family kind of thing.
And when he steps into the shopping center, people start looking at the diameter of the car, the tires of the car. Look. I mean, what has that got to do with how you perform? If you come with a Prado, and another guy comes with a V8, and another one comes with, I don't know what. You know, they will follow the one with a huge car.
The bigger the car.
The bigger the tire.
The bigger the tire.
The bigger the car.
The bigger the following.
So you can see already the what do you call the values system.
It's actually called conditioning. Because over time, people have been conditioned to more or less quantify. It's like that car gives them a value proposition that they can look at. They say, oh, kama hii ni mguu kubwa, because where I come from, people also say, unapeleka mguu kubwa, okay? So you've been quantified. They figure, to drive this, this equals, okay? If you come with a Pro Box, you will come with a Pro Box. And you may find yourself alone with your Pro Box. So,
and your relatives.
Yes. And even your relatives may just support you, but doesn't mean they'll vote for you.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
You see now, that issue is where the voter could help themselves, but they have been corrupted in the mind, I think. And so they become the
worst, best enemies.
Their own worst, best enemy.
Yes.
Best, worst enemy.
Yes.
28 minutes to 8. Let's take this break and come back. We'll talk about, so what is this about we as voters? What drives us? What motivates us to select a leader? Is it about the money? Is it about the wealth of the person? Is it about the questions of their integrity? We have very many MPs elect who have court cases. Okay? Are we considering that? Is that a factor, or does it not matter at all? Mheshimiwa Grace Kiptui, the first woman rep of Baringo County and a very good listener of the show and a contributor, is here with us in the studio to talk about this. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Unfold a whole new world of greater experience with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and enjoy the Get More Done device that's perfect for on-the-go productivity. Trade in your old device with Badili for the multitasker's ideal phone and get 25,000 shillings over traded in phone value. You can also get it now and pay later with Aspira at 0% interest for 6 months. So pre-order yours today and get a fold cover with S Pen, Samsung Care Plus and 24 months warranty. T's and C's apply.
We know it is cold, but Cold Stone Creamery has hot deals for you. This month, enjoy cups of rich and creamy ice cream, delicious ice cream cakes, and fresh oven-baked cakes at amazing prices. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and indulge in your favorite treats. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to
15 in Nairobi, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 23 in a sunny Nakuru at 13, and it's 14 and cloudy. In Nyeri, highs of 19. 21 will be the high, and a partly sunny Eldoret at 12. It's mostly sunny at 23 in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 28 and highs of 28 as well in a sunny Malindi at 20. 19 degrees and sunny conditions in Kisumu. We'll see highs of 26 in Kakamega Kakamega, where it's currently sunny at 15. Kampala, sunny conditions at 18, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, where it's currently sunny at, sunny at 21. 7 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 6. And it's raining in Lagos, still at 25. It'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 23. It's 21 and clear in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 31 today. Traffic still continues in most parts of the city. We're into traffic hour now. At a few minutes after 7:30, we're still seeing traffic on Jogo Road today going out to the city, and we're looking at heavy traffic more so towards the stadium roundabout. It's in and outbound traffic on Landys Road, and as you get into the CBD, that still continues. Really heavy on the Thika Superhighway, crawling into the city. It's doing the same on Kambu Road as well as Limuru Road today. Most parts of the city will find some traffic here and there. Your bypass is looking good. There's an option for you to use your exit on the Nairobi Expressway coming out of Westlands. You have a bit of a hold up, but you should be able to get out of that without too much of a problem. Ring Road Westlands also piling up as well. Into traffic hour now proper. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. We keep things moving this morning.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kitui, first woman rep for Baringo County. Mheshimiwa Robinson Talam says, big up Wakili. We felt your leadership as Baringo people. Continue doing the good work. Well appreciated. So, City, are we our best worst enemy? Really? I mean, when it comes to all these things, how we treat a leader. Because when a leader comes and all we're looking at is the size of the tire of their car, what we're looking at is how much money they're giving us, not even wanting to sit down and listen to what the message they have is. Unatupatia nini, my friend, twende kazi yetu.
We're talking about a culmination of a process in my mind. We're talking about how it is, and a trusting people believe in a process, whatever that process was, and believe in the way the individuals in that process ought to conduct themselves. And then over time, because of that trust, the word condition which I brought into the discussion, you see a change coming into play, and that change involves money in one way or the other. So that the values that we associate with the politicians also change. See, politicians by and large, could almost be described as selfless in a sense, because yes, it was a job, but it wasn't one of these jobs where you were going to get wealthy. No. It was a job where you were going to change. Now, one could argue that at independence, the needs of the Kenyan people were different from what they are now. And I'm saying not really. The needs haven't actually changed that much. But when you then have people who get into politics, they don't start off or with a track record of having been involved in or participating in the community's affairs like Mheshimiwa here. No. They start off as businessmen, or they start off as bureaucrats who have made money in whatever they are doing, and then they go into business and they're going into parliament. So essentially they're business people. So when they get into parliament, the business mindset is what we then see. The relationship then that the MP has with their people is transactional. It is no longer service. They talk service, but that's not what you see. Now, that particular situation simply just morphs into a far uglier form of what one saw earlier on, where you find the individual who is supposed to be the citizen who is being represented even stops being a human being. You've been profiled into a commodity that is used and tossed here and there and pushed wherever it is that would suit this particular individual. And I dare say that's actually where we are right now. Because if a politician was talking about people and believed that these are people whom they're representing, they would conduct themselves rather differently, if you ask me. But they don't.
Mheshimiwa, I mean, even just based on what CT is saying, and if you look at times when it wasn't even called civic engagement or it wasn't called that. We did have, and correct me if I'm wrong, where, I mean, just like you're saying, members of the community coming together to do things that they ought to have done. Members of community coming out and selecting a leader and saying, look, this is what we need, and we are matching our need to an individual that we see would be able to carry that responsibility. Do we see a distinct difference between that which happened in those times and that which is happening today? How can we get the voter? How can we get the electorate? How can we get people back into that place or back into that way of thinking that it is a corporate effort? That it cannot be the leader who comes, gets your vote, gives you some notes here and there, and then goes into the annals of the National Assembly, for example, and then does whatever they want.
Thank you, Oko. I think for me, it should be a national conversation. The city is saying we're in a very bad place. And our value system, you know, Kenyans will say they are going south when they actually are going north. Yeah?
They will knowingly say they're going south to deceive you.
Yes.
Or they'll be saying they're going south without knowing that they're actually heading north.
They may even know, because like laws in parliament where we pass them, yeah? There are so many laws, almost covering each and everything.
Yes.
And you will find people raising motions, one law on top of another. Implementation, zero. And we talk of values which we wish we would adopt, but we don't. I will go to the community campaign on a platform of what should be actually my role, but I don't actually mean it. The minute I'm now elected, I'll go for my biashara. And I use, whenever I see somebody who is raising their head, I go and cool them down with something. That kind of thing to maintain myself.
Yeah.
It has become so competitive. It has become something which has no moral compass. It is all about competition and self-actualization and accumulation of material things.
So what you're saying, Mheshimiwa, essentially is that even in this last election, that it would be hard-pressed to find one, two people who are really concerned about economic empowerment of their people, developmental upliftment of their area and community, who want to make sure that people go from one place to the next, who want to make sure that infrastructure, the people who are genuine about leadership and governance are few and far between.
They are very few, and they are getting discouraged by the day. Because I'll give you a story. There was a gentleman who became an MP in some part of Kenya. He brought all the CDF that was ever required to come to the community. He would network with other, either intergovernmental or even corporate Kenya, to make sure that these people's lives were uplifted. He did so much. To a point, the community decided to go and visit him to tell him exactly what they were feeling, that they are appreciating what he's doing. They carried honey, carried wimbi, carried a cow, carried a lamb, whatever. And the fellow was convinced that surely we are in sync in my community. When the elections came around, the party big weeks now, they go and correct that relationship, that very nice and productive relationship, by using words like, he's not one of us, he's not with me, or something like
he's
that.
Fighting me.
Yeah, something like that.
He
needs
boss.
to go to wherever he came from, something like that. And the voters,
They actually turned.
they turned against him, and he was voted out.
So what is it? Is it that the voter is so gullible? Or is it that the voter has no focus? Because if this is one person at your local level that you have such a good interaction with, you know them, you know they mean well. It doesn't matter where they come from. You've been dealing with them, you've been engaging with them, you know they mean well.
Mm-hmm.
And then this regional kingpin comes and tells you, this is my enemy. And that's enough to sway you. What does that say? What is that saying about the people?
It just says we are in a very bad place. Because this voter should have
A mind of their own.
or even be selfish for themselves and say, okay, he may not be your friend, but according to us,
He's
we've
our
seen
friend.
all our taxes come back. We've seen the school, we've seen the health centers and all and all and all. And stand up to this guy
Kingpin.
who comes 3 months to the election. You've never seen him before, and he may never come back. And here, you dismiss somebody who meant well, somebody who was a servant leader. You know, there is a difference of leadership, politics, servant leadership. You know, we cannot generalize that everybody who is in parliament is a servant leader.
Yeah.
No.
And we are not interested
City
in
has
those.
just said people are businessmen, people are what. So this voter must be so careful and selfish to listen to these big wigs and make their own choices. To
So
show
why,
them that
why is the voter not selfish?
that's why I came here.
Is there lack of because this is the thing, isn't it? That is there lack of is there a lack of understanding? Is there a lack of knowledge? Because or knowing that the two situations are connected. That the things that you're after, that you're taking that money on that daily basis to go and sort out whatever need. That if you had somebody in that position who was doing the right thing, chances of you needing that handout then would have been reduced significantly. If you had proper systems in place, if you had proper networks in place, which come about by proper legislation and proper engagement in terms of your job as a leader or in that position, those things would be there anyway. I mean, look at countries whereby, for example, the taxes that City is talking, the taxpayer issue you're talking about, we pay taxes, so they give us that money. If you look at countries where those things are taken care of, you're taxed, but those things are taken care of. When people are having conversations about elections, they're not talking about, oh, I went to the doctor and I couldn't find medicine in the clinic. That is not the issue. They're not talking about that I drove my car from point A to point B. No, forget about car. They're not talking about that I was at the farm and the road was dilapidated so I could not get my produce to market. They're far from those issues. They're talking about issues on another level because those issues have already been taken care of by this person. So now you're able to graduate to the next point because the very basic has been taken care of by a system that has gotten it. The system is working. In this case, the system is not working. So here we are talking about you want to get what you will eat on that day. So I will hear whatever Honorable Grace tells me today because I'm getting the 200. And then I'm just going to go tomorrow. And it's just a vicious cycle. We're doing the same thing. So is there a disconnect between, look here, folks, if you actually put somebody in place that would be able to get the job done right, this vicious cycle that we're talking about would not be. We would not even be having this conversation right now.
You see, even the so-called, you are saying people who are straight, yeah, they are getting shy, getting discouraged, like with the person in the story.
Yep.
Where is he right now?
What do you think he's feeling?
Yeah.
I mean, I have come in, I have tried to show you this is how we can move forward as a
And you've
community.
not given
This is what leadership is supposed to be.
And someone comes
Yes.
and in 3 months' time,
undoes everything.
all that is undone.
And then immediately, this voter will start complaining. Better so and so.
Yeah.
We saw this, we saw this. This other one, we don't know where.
Kwisha.
We don't even know where he lives. He doesn't come.
I think I see
He
a
has
disconnect.
people who are surrounded himself with. He can't be reached.
There's a major
I
breakdown.
see the disconnect, not actually with the individual. It's that the voter is not seeing the system. The voter is seeing the person.
Exactly.
So if we were voting in to say we want to put in somebody who goes in there and becomes part of a system that then works for us, and it doesn't matter, it's you, we know what the system should be doing, and so we know what we are asking you to go and do. Not that we are sending you to go and find out how that system works, and then you go and create a system and bring goodies to us.
I mean, consider this perspective. If you look at the way, for instance, the presidential races are run in this country, they are packaged as a community property.
Yes.
So it is not the individual, it is the community. And the presidency that is being sought is the community's presidency. So when the candidate speaks, it's not about his candidature. It is about the collective candidature. So when that is brought to bear on a hapless member of parliament in a small constituency, and there's this larger concept of our presidency. It's not the individual's presidency, it's our.
And when we're talking our, we're not necessarily talking about ethnic grouping here.
Oh no, ethnic grouping is very, very close to it, and
Yes.
those who are associated with it. You see, the power of ethnicity comes into play because we have embraced as Kenyans a representative perspective of leadership, meaning we understand an MP represents a region, but we also understand that there is the prestige and the emotional element that is attached to a presidency. So when somebody is president, yes, president of the country, we understand, but we also know exactly where they come from.
Yes.
Exactly. And we also know exactly what community they are from. And we also know that that community is therefore represented. Not just them, but those who are associated with it. It's a powerful representation. You asked the question. In my view, that's the point where we think with our emotions and not with our minds.
You are right.
Because when the emotions are over and the reality checks in, now your mind starts functioning. You wonder, what the hell did we do? But it's done.
And you start flaming a wave.
Yes, but
It
it's
was
done.
a wave.
But it's done.
So I think from what the Oko was saying, there's a very big disconnect of understanding that we are in a country where the majority of the people are down here. They donate part of their rights and responsibility to a small group called leaders who must then receive our taxes and bring it back and help do our what we need, you know. If they understood that, then they would be holding these people to account. And they would be selfish. You see, before elections or before the campaigns start, you don't hear a conversation where people are saying, what type of a leader do we want? Number one, he must be a kind of mature. Number two, he should not, you know, he's somebody who is hardworking, amachichunga.
Yep.
Number three, like that. Nothing like that happens. They just wait. And then some guys come, wamevaa uniform flani, they are dancing on the stage, music, you know, that kind of thing. With choppers and people are mesmerized. And that is it.
Have you considered, Mheshimiwa, something that I've been playing with in my mind? How it is, this is my theory. It's a bit conspiratorial, but it's my theory nonetheless. That a lot of it also has to do with the levels of poverty that our people have. Because when you deal with people who are poor, whose basic demands are really very basic, they will not allow themselves to go beyond thinking of what they need on an everyday basis. So somebody who seems to promise that to meet the needs of the day, whereas in reality the person whose message or narrative ought to hold so is the person who's telling you how to change, because change it starts immediately, but you see the results later on. It's like education. You never see the benefit of it at the time you're in nursery school, but you will see the benefit as time goes on. Forget the issue of getting a job, just what you become as a result of getting an education. Now, if you remove people's mind from actually getting to understand that, because they're in this constant state of always seeking basics, then you've got them exactly where you want them.
But now, how will they ever get out of that vicious cycle unless they stop going around in the musical chairs? How will they ever get out of it?
They've got to make that decision themselves.
Okay, if they are to make the decision themselves, it would mean they should be empowered knowledge-wise.
Yes.
Yes.
And persuaded.
But
by not not necessarily the politicians, maybe civil society, maybe churches, those
Yes.
other people.
Non-state
It should be something like multi-pronged approach to pamper this thing into their mind so that at the end of the day, they will know when you get a leader who is a servant, he will make the road, water. And I sometimes wonder, from 1963 to date, we've never sorted out those issues. Year in, year out, every election year is about water,
So
road.
then shouldn't it be clear? Because we're saying that somebody is in a desperate state. And if somebody comes and makes a promise to you in your desperate state, you're likely to believe what they're saying at that moment. But you've seen since 1963 that you've not been able to sort out this thing. And every 5 years, somebody comes and says, I promise to do this. And for 60 years, it's not been done. Hadn't that lights come on to say, hold on a minute, could these guys be hoodwinking us? Generations have died and gone, and the promises are still the same being made. What gives for you to be able to say, hold on, maybe these guys are not being honest?
Poverty, there's a concept of the psychology of poverty and how it is that when people are poor, the state of mind that they have leads to certain consequences. And the vicious cycle you speak of is then repeated because people are poor. Now, the crafters of the 2010 Constitution, I think, among many things, realized, let's try and see how we can actually ensure that things aren't centralized, that they are taken right to the levels where people are. The thing that we hadn't perhaps considered is just how damaged the people who seek high office in this country had become. So that in your own backyard, with your own people, the resources that are intended to change their lives, you simply choose to take it, you and your cronies and the people close to you. You see no harm, nothing wrong in just taking it and taking literally all of it, and the people remain in the same position. So,
when we were discussing this new constitution, I used to worry so much about the devolving of corruption. They say it's the same forest, different monkeys.
Yes.
So even if you take it all the way to the church,
Yes.
it is not. There is no guarantee that it will work.
No, there is no guarantee.
And I think the problem here is our value system. I always believe if Kenya decided that they wanted to say and do what they say, we may be in a better place. But so long as we still say we are going north and we are going south,
we don't mean it.
Yeah.
All of us are looking for that one opportunity.
how will it ever come?
All of us. And then we point fingers at somebody else. Even in this room, when you're discussing the voter, we forget that 3 of us voted just the other day.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We voted. And all the things that we are discussing still come to bear. Because at what level did you engage with all the 6 people that you voted for?
Sure.
At what level?
My friend.
Or even know their names.
I probably knew 2.
Right.
The other 4, no.
And then at what level are we going to engage with the 6 people who will be in office for the next 5 years? But we look back and say, in the village, the people who come, we everybody just distances themselves. That person in the village is distancing themselves and saying, wale watu wa Nairobi ndio walikuja wakatuambia huyu ndio mtu.
Ndu has a proposition here, and do keep saying that there's a threshold of suffering that when people reach, their eyes then open widely and they realize, no, enough is enough.
And I don't think it's reached there yet.
But now, 60 years down the line.
It's not, yeah, I don't think it's reached there yet, to be honest.
The story you tell of this individual, I know of a story of a similar individual who, against party lines that are dominant, has continued to be a member of parliament because the people have decided they don't care.
This is our person.
Yeah. Yes, we don't care where this person comes from, but this is the person who has our interests at heart, and they keep voting that person in. Yes.
So what we are saying actually is the voter has the power.
Yes. The voter does have the power.
Why they don't exercise it? Maybe
Things
because
haven't
of
gone bad
ignorance, because of poverty, But I wish they should be a continuous education.
Yep. And that is what we want to be doing here.
I don't know whose duty it will be.
Everybody.
But I don't want it to be a one-person thing
but
because it will be associated with what person.
You know,
Let it be
everybody's...
Your being here is
not
doing
wrong.
it. This discussion is doing it.
Yes.
So it's a question of continuing it.
Honorable Grace Kiptui, thank you very much for joining us today. Asante sana.
Thank you so much.
Mheshimiwa Grace is the first woman rep for Baringo County. She has been here with us. We'll be talking about the role of voters. It's our responsibility. Have a good morning. 8 a.m. The conversation continues.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Anti-corruption activist John Githongo has submitted a damning affidavit at the Supreme Court in support of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga's presidential petition, alleging that a whistleblower confided in him on how he was part of a team that manipulated presidential results. Githongo's affidavit seeks to overturn Deputy President William Ruto's victory following his declaration as president-elect in the just concluded August polls. In a well-detailed affidavit, Githongo said that the whistleblower told him that he was part of 56 people dubbed the team and who had been recruited to allegedly infiltrate the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission systems. Githongo further stated that the team had 10 supervisors who were guiding and directing the other 46 individuals who were recruited to access and manipulate Forms 34A. And Kenya's Elections Observer Group ELOG has confirmed that both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza coalitions had deployed party agents to all polling stations. The Independent Observer Group that monitored the hotly contested August polls across the 290 constituencies in the country's 47 counties said agents from both the Azimio and United Democratic Alliance Party allied to the Kenya Kwanza coalition were present in almost all the polling stations and signed the declaration of results for the presidential election contained on Forms 34A. In fact, the Azimio wing, whose presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga has challenged the results at the Supreme Court, had more agents than President-elect William Ruto's UDA party. Now, the Media Council of Kenya says efforts by the media sector in Kenya to organize a joint tallying of presidential election results started too late in the day and could not materialize before the August 9th general election. In a report, Chief Executive Officer David Omoyo stated that while MCK, Media Owners and Editors Guild, agreed in principle that a joint approach and synchronization of the process across the media akin to the joint production approach used in the presidential debates will be the best solution, the discussion started too late in the day when individual media houses had already deployed in-house plans. The preliminary report dubbed hits and misses, media performance and press freedom violations pre, during and post the August 9th general election in Kenya stated that while the media houses largely relied on the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission's portal to get results which were displayed on their screens, different methodologies applied and varying sizes of human capacity, so different media houses displaying different results at the same time. And the outgoing Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana has joined the Kenya Kwanza camp. The constitutional law expert who held a meeting with President-elect William Ruto at his current residence will be part of the coalition's legal team in the ongoing presidential petition. The two-term governor who vied for the Makueni Senate seat on a Muungano party ticket lost to Wiper candidate Dan Manzo after garnering 59,034 votes against Manzo's 177,273 votes. Ruto, who made the announcement on Twitter, said the Muungano party leader had agreed to work with his team to further the country's development. And President-elect William Ruto has committed to boost ties with Serbian agriculture, information technology and healthcare. Ruto made the commitment when he met with a Serbian delegation led by Ambassador Dragan Zupajvac at his current office. Ambassador Dragan also delivered a formal congratulatory message to the President-elect Ruto from the government of Serbia. And the Health Ministry has denied reports that there is swine flu outbreak in Nakuru County. Acting Director General of Health Dr. Patrick Moth says despite the health officials in Nakuru County announcing that one person had died from the disease, the investigations have revealed that the current outbreak is that of a common cold. He complained that about the action of the health officials led by the head of health services Daniel Wainaina to announce that there is an explosion without certification. According to the officials, the outbreak had affected approximately 140 people, most of them children, while 6 children have been admitted at Kiptawany Health Center and 2 others in Nakuru General Hospital.
Tuliweza kuchukua samples za kupeleka katika maabara, na baada ya siku chache tukapata matokeo ambayo yalionyesha baadhi ya watoto walikuwa na virusi vya H1N1 ambayo inajulikana kama homa ya nguruwe ama swine flu kwa kizungu. Tuliweza kuweka mikakati ya kukabiliana na homa hii, na kwa kwenda pale katika eneo la Elementaita kwa kuhamasisha wananchi wa pale na kuambia mipango ambayo wanafaa waweke, ikiwemo kuimprove mambo ya sanitation na ventilation katika manyumba yao.
This is Newsweb. Dennis Aseta, good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Really heavy on Jogo Road this morning, getting into the city, and we're going to see more of that as we go towards 8:30. We're in the middle of traffic hour, and it doesn't look like it's letting up anywhere. Kamkunji really heavy coming in from Landis Road. We're looking at in and outbound traffic on Jogo Road. Gong Road on the other side of the city, getting towards Community, is also quite packed. And we're looking at Langata Road just there at that junction, heading out towards Aerodrome. That has also picked up quite some. Looking at the Thika Superhighway, traffic continues past 8 o'clock, and we're looking at it really heavy coming off of Survey. Kiambu Road in and outbound, Limuru Road in and outbound, coming out of Westlands as well towards Waiaki Way. Traffic continues this morning. So let's keep an eye on things. We're just getting into the thick of it. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Good morning.
This
it's 7
is
minutes
the
after 8.
Situation
This
Room,
is the
the
Situation
only way
Room.
to start.
It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're live from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday morning, and we broadcast on Spice FM. We live stream the show on YouTube and Facebook. We also go live for an hour on KTN Home and KTN News. A very good morning to everybody who's tuned in. We are now going to talk about the Scouts movement, the 9th Africa Youth Forum, and this is for Scouts. And then there's the Africa Conference, 18th Africa Scout Conference. We have two guests in the studio. Before we welcome them, we have the day's proverb from CT.
This is our final proverb from the country of Chad. If the man in front of you falls into a hole, do not follow him. This is a clearly gender-biased proverb. It doesn't speak of what happens if a woman in front of you falls into a hole. It just speaks of the man. Yes. Doesn't mean you can't help the person out of the hole. Just don't follow him into the hole.
A woman wouldn't have fallen in the hole.
That,
She would
I
have asked
think,
for
is what is
directions.
implied. Yes.
I think in Chad, a woman wouldn't be in front of you.
Wouldn't be in front of the man.
They walk behind the man.
Mostly.
Flipped that whole coin, haven't we? Okay. If the person in front of you falls into a hole, don't follow them.
No.
Okay. Don't get in. Okay, you can go where they are. See if you can help them, but don't get in. Okay? That gets straight into the conversation we want to have, which is about Scouts and the Scout movement and what it's all about. We have two guests in the studio. Kathleen Michelle Godfrey is the chairperson of the Youth Advisors to Africa Scout Committee 2018-2022. She also has another long title. She's the chair of the 9th Africa Scouts Youth Forum.
Well, you know, title isn't everything.
Title isn't everything, eh? This everything is a title. Grace Wanjakamau is a Senior Assistant Scouting Development at the World Scout Bureau Africa Support Center. Title isn't everything. It's just something.
Yes.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Welcome to the hot seats of the Situation Room. We want to understand the two conferences that we're talking about, the Africa Youth Scouts Youth Forum and the conference. But let's go back into the organization that you represent. I mean, so there's a whole Scouts movement across the world. Are there different factions within the Scouts movement across the world? Or is it the same one Scouts movement globally?
I think it depends what you mean when you say factions. So for us, Scouting is an organization that promotes active citizenship in young people and promotes this core set of values, a certain kind of ability to put your ideas into motion and to really take part in what's happening in the world around you and in your community. So across the world, those principles, those values, they're all the same. We have, of course, in every country, every community, groups that coordinate that and make sure that that's happening. But I think I probably wouldn't use the word factions for that.
Okay. You see, just like I'm looking at it from the Red Cross. There's the International Committee of the Red Cross. Then there are the National Red Cross Organization. There's the Red Crescent. All those. So when it comes to Scouts, do you have a global umbrella body and then national bodies? Do you have global umbrella bodies and national bodies? That's what I'm asking, Grace.
Yes, we do have that. For example, right now here in Kenya, we do have the Kenya Scout Association. This is the body that governs and also supports any operations under scouting in Kenya. My office supports 40 countries in Africa. And then from that is what we form Scouting in Africa, Scouting in the Africa region. We do have Scouting in the Eurasia region, in the Europe region, in the Inter-America region, in the APR region. So yes, we do have different countries that come together as national scout organizations. Yes.
Can we sum it up to say it's a big world, so we need some moving parts?
Right. Yeah.
I want to get back to basics, really. What is the scouting movement? I mean, yes, you've given a summary of what it does, active citizenship, and so forth. I would even ask you what that means. But what is it intended for? When was it started? Who started it? Why did they start it? And why is it a worldwide movement?
Okay.
Well, I can start off by saying it was started many years ago, in 1907, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, by a man named Baden-Powell. But, you know, with anything that we call a movement, as our one chair likes to say, a movement should move. So as the years passes, we move, we develop, we grow, we learn new things.
And so this is also contributed with anything we are working on. So for example, if you are a listener and you are a scout in the 90s, if you're listening to what we're doing right now, you'll notice there's a bit of a difference in it. So we do keep on changing with the youth trends, but one of the things that we mainly maintain on is the values of our founder, Robert Baden-Powell.
What are these values?
Well, it's about being kind to others, being kind to animals, being active in your community, being honest. Really, I would say you can sum it up as those core values that when we think of a good person who is able to take their ideas and move forward with them, those are really the core values that we build our movement around and we hope to spread within society.
Okay. Can we make is there a connection then between this and what we see in schools, whereby we have, I believe it's once a week, where the scouts within school are dressed in the uniform and they're doing certain activities. So the direct connection between what you're doing and then also what is happening in schools. And can you draw that for us?
Yes. So we have different contexts on how scouting runs in different countries. Let me give a context of here in Kenya. We have scouting, school-based scouting, and we have community-based scouting. So that's how you're able to see school-going children are able to wear their uniforms, and throughout the week you'll see some raising their flags, but then you'll see some taking part in community activities. So they are able to identify this is what we want to work on, and then we give them a program that guides them in that. So community-based scouting is one that is not centered with a school. So we can have church-sponsored, we have media houses sponsored. So there's always something. We always do have a scout group attached either to a church, to a local government. There is a way that they are all connected. Does that answer?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So now what essentially we're looking at is in building some of these, virtues, some of these values that you'll be able to carry on with you, throughout life.
Yeah.
So how then, if we stick with the school, how then do you carry that through? Outside of school, what happens? Because then you're done with your primary school, and then we still then through on to high school. I believe Kalonzo Musyoka is the patron, for example, of the Scouts movement in Kenya. How then do you see that carry through into adulthood, taking those values with you?
Okay, I'll give an example with myself. I joined Scouting in 2003. We have an age section in Kenya called the Sungura Scouts. Then there is Chipkizi, then there is Mwamba, then there is Rover. So in these different age groups, we do have activities that help this young person to grow into a specific thing. Let me give an example with environment and sustainability. So at a very young age, you're introduced to what is the environment. You're taught, what do you notice in the environment? What do you feel is not so good? And then I come in at the age of, let's say, Chipkizi, and I tell you, then there are some of the needs you need to work on. Let me use a particular program. Right now, we do have the Plastic Titaners Challenge. This is a challenge that we're really trying to have young people be very keen and aware of their daily habits when it comes to the usage of plastic. So a young person, a young child, let's say below 9, starts to see it's not about plastic. So what plastics do you use in the house? How often do you use this plastic? Then at an later age, we now tell you is that, can you audit your plastic habits and let's find alternatives? Because you're all, with how we grow, we consumed with the habits we have around us. So with that, we try and make sure that every young person who goes through the learning process, by the time they get to the Rover stage, they're able to understand it is my responsibility to audit how I use the plastic. And why am I doing this? It's because we have a need in our environment, a need in our community. And so we even start with now the conversation of a green economy, which we start with people who are above the age of 18. Yeah.
I think there's also a lot that you can say there around what we call non-formal education and peer-to-peer learning. Because when you have someone taking part in education, not in a classroom, not having a lecture, not with homework assignments, but really learning from what they are doing and doing it with other people of their age group, it also instills this sense of leadership and this growing leadership ability. Because from a young age, you're taught that you drive your future, you drive your ideas, and that everyone has a part to play in the achievement of those ideas. And as you grow forward, as you become more experienced and you learn more things, you have an even greater ability to drive those initiatives and those ideas and really put them into action. And I think that's not always something that youth have available to them in society, is that avenue for really having that idea and putting it into play.
Right.
Once upon a time, I remember the scouting movement wasn't the scouting movement, it was Boy Scouts. And then there were Girl Guides. What happened? I mean, everybody joined the Scouts and everybody became Scouts, or how did this turn out?
So we have the Scouts and the Girl Guides.
Oh,
yes.
We still have Girl Guides, yeah?
We still have Girl Guides. And
so it's no longer just Boy Scouts, it's Scouts.
No, they're two separate bodies, but we are sister movements.
All right.
So there's Boy Scouts and Scouts?
No, there's Scouts and then there's Girl Guides. So in Scouts, it's open to both boys and girls. Okay. Then in Girl Guides, we do have a predominantly female members.
So we say the Girl Guides are our sister organization, and they do present quite similar value-based codes, but we have slightly differing programs and coordination. And it's also it can depend on your country. So for example, countries, based on their context, have integrated with a male and female at different points in time. But in Africa, the majority of countries have both boys and girls joining the Scouts and just girls able to join the Girl Guides at the moment.
Okay.
And I can think, let me give a context. I do understand, but earlier, yes, in Kenya, we mainly used to have Boy Scouts. But after some time, there was an evolution to involve more, to have the ladies join the movement. So we do have the two movements running concurrently in Kenya and in many parts of the world.
And if I can just say, for me, I think the integration is really wonderful. For example, I went to an all-girls school. So the opportunity I had to learn how to work with people of both genders and people of many different cultures was really valuable for me going forward into life in general.
How widespread is the movement in Kenya? And then looking at, the region and then Africa. And I ask that because of these values that you're talking about. When we go into a situation, for example, like what we've just come out of in Kenya today, the question then is, where have values played in decision making? So let's go back to the question. How far spread is the movement in Kenya?
We are currently working with around 2 million plus here in Kenya. That is both the Scouts and the people who support them, they're called Scout leaders.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And they are available in all the 47 counties. Yes.
Is there a census that's conducted to know the number of active Scouts in a country at any given time? The number of Scouts who are, post-school, because that's where they're very, very active.
Yeah.
So the post-school Scouts, for example, do we know how many we have in Kenya and what they're doing?
I don't have an exact number, but I do know that we have Scouts mainly in most of the universities and colleges and TVET institutions.
And beyond that. So once they graduate out of school, what is the expectation for a Scout?
So the good thing with Scouting, it's always more of a home. So you're taken through the system, and by the time you're hitting 26, you're already inducted into being a Scout leader. So we use your skill. So what happens, the times we may lose out someone, maybe when they get into the workplace, but they always find a way of coming back into Scouting. Yeah. So maybe back to your question on how we get the numbers is that we do have a members portal. And every year, each National Scout organization does upload their numbers. They do have their different ways on how they do capture their numbers. I think it would be best, for example, for Kenya, we can visit their website and find out how they capture their numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the way you have, you engage. And I'd assume one of the things that you use to engage is meetings, conferences, and fora, right?
Yeah.
The 9th Africa Scout Youth Forum. And then there's the 18th Africa Scout Conference. So first, what's the forum and what's a conference?
Well, the Youth Forum is really one of the mechanisms by which we want to promote meaningful youth involvement in decision-making and in governance. Because as a youth organization, young people, not only in Scouting, but in society in general, they want to have a voice in the direction of the things that they are involved in. So the Youth Forum is really our platform to specifically hear from the youth in the region who are representing their various National Scout organizations and really put forward recommendations that the conference should consider on the way forward, as well as hear some information and receive some education on things like, this year we had entrepreneurship, for example, innovation, sustainable development. So they receive both enrichment and the decision-making input. And they also can engage in the fellowship between the different countries and network with each other as well.
So the Scout Youth Forum has already taken place.
Yeah, we
Where was
concluded
it?
yesterday.
Where was it?
It was in Karen.
At Don Bosco, Youth
Okay.
Educational Services.
And it brought together youth from across the continent?
Yes.
How many participated? What was the program like? What were the resolution? Was there a current declaration of 2022?
So I can say yes to all of the above. So we had various recommendations, some to do with including youth engagement and governance in specific ways, some to do with promoting specific programs that involve youth priorities like entrepreneurship, like the environment. And we also did have a declaration that was voted on and unanimously passed yesterday evening. And in terms of participants, we had voting presence from 30 National Scout organizations in the region this year. And most of those delegates will go on to form part of the Africa Scout Conference delegations and continue their input into the decision making there.
Tell us a bit more about the declaration. What was the declaration and how binding is it?
Well, there were a few parts to our declaration, mainly the recognition of how youth involvement in governance is something that should be really, truly meaningful and never subjected to what we would say tokenism or treated frivolously. Because as a youth organization and as youth in society, there's really a need to actively include youth in those decision-making processes. There was also some recognition of work that's been done in the past 4 years by the organization, because 4 years ago we had a different youth forum with its own recommendations, and we also track progress on how things are going with the implementation of that. So there was some recognition of work that was done there, and really a call to leadership within the region to continue with those processes, continue developing and growing, and continue to move and involve young people in the decision-making processes and in educating them on really what is happening in society and what the future is bringing for us.
Sounds like it expects governments to listen and take action, as you recommend. So who takes this declaration to the government and who follows up?
So the declaration is passed on to National Scout organizations. So we are, one, imploring National Scout organizations, and two, they do pass some responsibility to us in the region. So what we do, we go to the conference, all this has passed. So when we start out our new triennium, we follow up with the recommendations and resolutions passed by the forum. Okay? Can I give a context?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah?
With government.
With government?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because if you're talking about youth being involved in decision making in governance, there's the government. You are not government. So
Yes.
you must engage with government at some point.
Let me give a context. So we had noticed that in most National Scout organizations, their leadership is mainly dominated by adults. We wanted young people to have a feel of, and even for their inputs to be heard. So they did pass a resolution some time back to ensure that each National Scout organization adopts a young person in their National Scout board. So when the decision came to our side, all national organizations agreed to work on that. So in the next 3 years, we continually monitored, has each or the 40 NSOs in Africa followed up in this decision. Following up with governments, we noticed that in different Scout organizations, they partner differently with government. So for example, a Scout from Chad, the National Scout Organization of Chad, will go to their government and say, this is one of the areas we are prioritizing on, and we have passed that we really want to include more young people in our board. So let's say when it comes to being seconded from maybe the government side, they can add one more young person. It also comes in through elections, because they do have elective posts for National Youth Forum chairs and also people who are part of the board as a young person. So this is where they now involve their government on the works they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
If I can add a little bit there as well, I think it's really important to note that Scouting as a movement is an apolitical organization. And that's really, really important, because what that means is, because we have an impact on the lives of so many young people across the region, we are able to advocate for certain things and to, when given the opportunity, to give input into policy such as things on the environment, things on youth and leadership, things in civil society, and also promote things like peace and peaceful transitions outside of our movement, because we don't specifically align to certain political parties or also religious groups. So for us, it's really a space of how can we really cohesively bring forward the views that we should be promoting as a society, and can we promote that inclusion into policy on a broader scale as well.
Okay. Let's take a break on this point, and then we'll talk about the Scout Conference and the difference between Scouts Forum and the Scouts Conference, which are taking place around the same time, in the same year, in the same places. Okay, we are having a conversation about the scouting movement globally. Kathleen Godfrey is a chair of the Youth Advisors to Africa Scouts Committee and also chair of the 9th Africa Scouts Youth Forum. Also joining us in the studio is Grace Kamau, Senior Assistant for Scouting Development at the World Scout Bureau Africa Support Center. Kenya's biggest conversation takes a break, reminding you about a big day tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow, Ndu?
The fictional county of Bwatele, the breadbasket of Kenya, is the setting for County 49. It's a new political drama from the home of Kenyan content, Showmax. Despite the affluence of the nation, the citizens struggle with a high cost of living and limited resources. The series is produced by Kibanda Pictures and will debut on Showmax Friday, the 25th of August, rather Thursday, the 25th of August, with new episodes rolling out weekly. And if you are like us, then you only want to experience the best of original Kenyan content. Showmax has you covered with subscriptions going for as low as 760 shillings per month.
The show is called County what?
49.
County 49.
Yes.
Not 48, not
County
50.
49.
49.
49.
And the
Shall I
county
say
is
it one more
Bwatele County.
Bwatele County.
In the breadbasket of Kenya. Okay.
Make your connections, man.
Okay. Bwatele bread and the basket.
Indeed.
8:30. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather and traffic. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort.
nafanda hii umbo yako iko na nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We will see highs of 23 and lows of 14. It's sunny at 14 in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 13. 20 will be the high in a sunny Nyeri at 15, and we'll see highs of 22 in a sunny Eldoret at 15 as well. It's raining now in Mombasa at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 21, and 23 will be the low in a sunny Malindi at 25. Partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kisumu. It'll go to highs of 27, and 26 will be the high in a partly sunny Kakamega, currently at 18. Light rain in Kampala at 20, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam at 22. 8 degrees and partly sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 7, and it's raining in Lagos at 24. We'll see highs of 30. 31 will be the high in a sunny Kinshasa at 21.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The eastern part of the city then coming out towards Jago Road is really heavy today, just past that Makadara train station, and stuff has slowed down considerably. Heavy traffic as you inbound to the city, and it's going to snake its way through to Landis, out through Kamkunji. And we're seeing in and outbound traffic on Haile Selassie this morning. Langata Road is pretty heavy as you're going towards Airdrome onto Uhuru Highway, and we're seeing some of that going to Raila Odinga Way. What's coming out of Westlands is not too bad. Ring Road Westlands is quite cloggy, and we'll see that James Gishuru also has quite some of that this morning. The Thika Superhighway still continuing. Heavy traffic then coming out from the Outer Ring Junction. Kiambu Road is also bumper to bumper as you get towards Muthaiga Square. Still in traffic hour? Yes, we are. Let's know what's going on with you. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It continues at 26 minutes to 9. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and online. Our guests, Kathleen and Grace from the Scouts Movement, still here with us in the studio. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga. Tell us now about the conference, the 18th Africa Scout Conference.
So, as you can tell, because we had the 9th Youth Forum and the 18th Conference, the conference is a decision-making body that's been around for quite a bit longer than our Youth Forum. And every 3 years we gather in a different location, and delegations from our member organizations come forward and have their say in our decision-making processes, and also elect new people into certain leadership positions, as well as choose the venues for the upcoming events in the next 3 years.
So when is the conference taking place? Has that taken place as well?
We'll begin tomorrow with that.
Still in Nairobi?
Yes.
Bringing together the same delegation that was in the forum?
Well, it will include those from the forum, but for the Youth Forum, member organizations can send 2 delegates. For the conference, they can send up to 6, which should include, ideally, their youth delegates as well. So we'll see a number of new arrivals today for the conference that starts tomorrow, partly the same people and partly some additional individuals as well.
What are some of the key areas that will be focused on during this conference, and what are some of the things that you're saying, absolutely have to be addressed? Because, obviously, conference people are then coming, taking, and then going back and plugging into their communities, right? But what are some of the things that, will be coming out during this conference?
We want to fast track the solutions around the COVID-19 implications. So that will be one of the things that will be keenly discussed during the conference. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also have a bit of a focus on what we call safe from harm, which is really ensuring that every member organization is setting a really good standard in keeping young people that are part of our movement safe. So there'll be a big focus on that during this conference, as there was in the previous conference. And also just generally governance tools and standards that we have across our organization to help the understanding of those tools and the implementation of those tools.
Okay. So is impact felt amongst young people who are not necessarily in the movement?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that question. I think, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the SDGs, but I always say my favorite sustainable development goal is partnership, because we should never be doing anything by ourselves. So not only do we as the Scout movement have our activities that we do within society, we also partner often with other youth organizations, other educational organizations to spread that impact more broadly. But in addition to that, even if you're not specifically a Scout, you may attend a Scouting activity or benefit from a Scouting program in the short term, which will in some way have an impact on you going forward, even if it's just that you learn something new on a given day.
So in our activities, yes, we do have non-Scouts who are part of us. And nowadays we don't want to say non-Scout, we want to say young people. So we do have the Scouts who are the main beneficiaries. Then we do work closely with our communities and with our partners. So it is all an intertwinement. In one way or another, you'll be able to find a link somewhere with Scouting. And yes, especially we have a big focus with the Scouts for SDGs mobilization, because we really want every National Scout organization to take the challenge on and solve the challenges they have in their community. At times we do have the same challenges, but the different contexts really vary with the different countries. So this will be our push to ensure that all of us are creating an impact in our communities. We do have examples of activities they can do, but we really want the National Scout organizations to own it and to fly with it. Yeah.
If I can add, we say, if you see a problem in your community, you should do what works to help solve that community. And if your Scouts are doing what works, the impact cannot help but be felt by others in the community, because steps are being taken to impact that problem. And each small step, of course, adds upon each other, and eventually the problem will hopefully be resolved.
The mention of the conference, you said part of what the conference does, it looks at policy. So what sort of individuals come for this conference within the scouting movement?
So I don't want to bore you with a list of roles and specific...
Please bore me with the list.
Well, it can vary. Of course, each member organization makes a specific decision. But you could have, for example, some will send chief scouts, some will send CEOs, some will send chief commissioners, international commissioners. So it tends to be people that really have a strong leadership role within the organization and have a lot of impact on the direction that the National Scout organization is taking.
Okay, now there was mention of policies that decisions that you had arrived at, where you were focusing and insisting on young people being involved.
Yes.
Are young people involved in this conference?
So they absolutely are. The delegates from the Youth Forum will join their delegation teams at the conference, and their opinions, their goals, their priorities will be included in the voting process by those delegations. So if you have a delegation of 6, most likely 2 of those will be your delegates from the Youth Forum, forming part of that core decision-making team at the conference as well.
So what you're saying is that the majority of people who are in this decision and policy-making process are people who are not necessarily youth. And yet the membership of the scouting movement is predominantly youth. Now, is this a fair distribution, really?
I think for us it's a growth point. You know, we are continually growing and improving. I also maybe just want to highlight not every National Scout organization will have 6 individuals in their delegation. So, for example, I can give you Lesotho Scout Association, their young lady who is a delegate for the Youth Forum. She is also the only delegate that will represent that Scout Association at the conference. So that youth delegate will be the only individual making those decisions on behalf of her whole National Scout organization. And it's not the only case, just an example. And for example, Scout South Africa as well, they will be sending their chief commissioner, and they had 1 youth delegate. So it will be those 2 making the decisions at the conference on behalf of the National Scout organization.
See, where my mind went to when you first mentioned the inclusion of youth and the deliberate effort to do so was continuity.
Yes.
And inducting young people into leadership roles and positions at an early age.
Yes.
And that probably means immersing them into decision-making processes so that they can actually see and understand how it is made. I also understand that many people who are in these higher positions were once youthful scouts. I understand it.
Yeah.
But if more and more youth or young people are not involved in the process, the process of cascading some of these values, in my mind, is slowed down just a wee bit.
I think it's a fair point. I also just think that it's also part of the reason for the existence of the Youth Forum itself. Because the process that we follow at the Youth Forum, when we introduce recommendations onto the floor, when we vote on them, when we amend them, it's the self-same process that we follow at the conference. And those recommendations from the Youth Forum are moved to the floor of the conference as a whole. So even aside from being involved in your specific delegation, you have your additional input from the Youth Forum, and you've experienced this full educational process and governance process from the preceding event, which then passes on to the next event as well. And that's not only at the Africa level. Many of our National Scout organizations have this happening at their national levels or their provincial levels as well, with youth forums and conferences.
I can also come in with that. For the last 3 years, we have had one of the youngest chairperson of the Africa Scout Committee. So it has been a process. So once it was passed, we started seeing the change. So that was the first time we had a person under 35. His name is Victor Tipaga, who is the current chair of the Africa Scout Committee. We have also seen a change with a young person also leading WASOM in in general, we have our Secretary in General, who is Ahmed, also a young person who is leading the organization.
How old is Ahmed?
I will find out how old he is, but he is he's in his 30s. He's in his 30s. I don't have the exact figure.
I want to hear of people in their 20s.
In their 20s?
Yes, for me, that now you would be talking about a genuinely young person. But I presume by the time you're 30 in the organization, you started off in leadership positions at a younger age.
Yes.
And you've grown to the point where now you can actually get to this. Is my assumption correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I can also add that we have the youth forum chair for Kenya is also is around 24.
Good.
I was
Good
also
age.
part of the National Scout Board, and that time I was in the age group of 21 to 24. Then
Even
I left.
better.
Yes.
And you can say both of us here today, we're still in our 20s
That
as
is
well.
excellent. That is excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you measure impact? How do you say that the work that you do year in, year out then is actually impacting lives? Because that is it at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
How do you look at communities and say, yes, because of 1, 2, 3 interventions or 1, 2, 3 things that we've done beyond school going age, that this is actually succeeding?
We have a platform called thescout.org. So this is a site that scouts upload the activities they're doing in their community. I will give an example with the Kenyan context. They're just from the electioneering process. They had a campaign called Form Me Peace and has been running for a year now. It is now more than a year. And their main initiative was to reach out to young people who are above the age of 15 and to the age of 26, imploring to them that form the peace. So how would they do this? They did come activities in their schools and in their universities, and all this was aimed at, yes, we do have conflicting opinions, but what does that doesn't mean we have to conflict each and every time. So what happens if in your area there's a challenge coming in? We want you to be part of the conversation, that we can have differing political opinions. So we are able to measure this by seeing one of the numbers that are reported. So we're easily able to account how many people were part of this and how the coverage they had. So we had a few of them. I can see a lot of stories from the media side for Kenya Scouts, and it can be attested with the main areas where they have scouts that the Forming Peace campaign was actually quite successful.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's also part of it of when you implement a project, what you are also doing at the closing stages of that project, or if it's an ongoing project at regular intervals, you're getting feedback from the participants in that project as to whether it had an impact and what kind of impact it had. And another metric we use is also how sustainable is your project. And I don't only mean here environmental sustainability, although there are many environmental projects. I also mean sustainability over time. So if you introduced a project, is there a long-term plan for the impact that that project will have? And how is it going to do that? Who is going to take over once you move to something different? And so on and so forth. So we do encourage metrics and tracking and impact tracking across our organization in that way as well, both in terms of projects implemented by members of Scouting, and also in terms of, say, as an example, things that were resolved on at the conference. Those are also tracked, and KPIs are developed to say, did we do what we set out to do? And is it a long-term impact that this has had?
So do you plug into existing issues? Let's say Kenya Scouts, for example. Do you plug into existing issues, or do you then come and introduce issues and say, this is what we feel that we should deal with this year? I mean, for example, there was a huge issue this year in the country with youth being involved in the electoral process, all right? Whether it was a registration with IEBC and things like this, and probably will be a continuing issue for years to come. So do you plug into issues like that, or do you come and introduce issues and say, this is what we will focus on this year?
We focus our interest with the needs that are in the country, and we don't introduce new things. So, for example, each country feels their country, what is actually happening, and what resolve can we bring on board, or what initiative can we bring to work on this. So I do know that Kenya Scouts did not work alone in this campaign. They had a few partners with them, and I know they were developing for this initiative for a longer time.
Yeah.
For example, sometime back also we had the campaign that the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was leading about the planting trees. So I remember they had partnered with Kenya Forest Service. They also had Girl Guides on board. So everyone was bringing in to answer to that need. So it's not something new. They answer what is current in their country.
But there's something that you also said, that the Scouts movement is apolitical. So does that mean that you would not engage in issues, for example, of like mobilizing the youth and sensitizing the youth on elections and registration as voters and turning out to vote?
So when we say we're apolitical, what we mean is we don't endorse or support a specific political party or candidate. So we will never go out and say, as a movement, this is our choice for this election or this specific issue. What we will do is promote causes that lead to active youth participation, such as registering to vote, such as promoting peace during elections, because those aren't issues that tie to a specific candidate. These are issues of importance in society as a whole.
Right.
That we can say it's socially responsible for everyone who is eligible to vote.
So Kathleen and Grace, you both are in the leadership of the Scout movement. Is this a full-time job, or are you doing this part-time? Is this volunteerism? Are you employed?
So the answer to that is different for each of us. So I am in a volunteer position. So I work full-time in addition to my responsibilities with the organization. So I'm a volunteer, whereas the lovely Grace is a member of what we call the World Scout Bureau, which is the staff that support the running of the Scout movement as a whole. And in addition to the World Scout Bureau, there may be some staff members in national organizations for coordination. But it's worth noting that the numbers of staff are like a core team that provides support. And then there are a huge number of volunteers in addition to that that support the movement.
So how do you fund your programs? For example, how do you fund the operations of this core team? And how do you fund for example, the conference and the forum that you're holding?
Okay, so for the conference, the participants are paying for their own fees to come participate. Others have already partnered with different people. But mainly for our scouting activities, we do have partners. So we are able to establish, this is our focus point, environment and sustainability. So we do have a partnership team that goes out and looks for funds for us.
We also have our foundations. So we have the World Scout Foundation and the Africa Scout Foundation, whose role is really to mobilize support financially for our programs and our organizations so that we can continue to run as a movement and provide a high standard. Because if you look at scouting in Africa, we're 4.5 million or so. So there is some funding that is required to coordinate that, which is mobilized by our teams and then, of course, reported on as well.
Okay. So as you go through, we look at Kenya, we look at the region. If you're looking at the African continent, then in terms of impact, I'm talking about 4.5 million. Would you say that the activities that you can see happening in one country, for example, are replicated across the country, across the continent for further impact?
So absolutely. And I can give a really good example. We have a program called Food for Life, where we encourage young people to develop basic, shall I say, farming skills so they can grow their own food. And the manuals for that were developed, say, for example, within Scout South Africa, and then adopted by many, many countries across the Africa region and implemented there. And that's not the only case. So as an organization, we put a lot of focus on best practice. And when we have a best practice, we share that best practice, and the others tailor it to their context and their needs to improve situations and communities.
Are there instances where you borrowed something that was considered best practice, say from one country, then it's adopted by another country and it even outshines the original?
I think absolutely. I think it's difficult for me to give a specific example. I can give great examples of where we share programs, where we share best practices. But I think the reason why it's difficult for me to find an example is because at that point, it's because the organization has adopted it and made it its own. So I struggle to think of something.
So it's kind of different from the original.
Let me say not different, but what I strongly believe in is that you can't necessarily pick up something from here, put it here, and expect it to work in exactly the same way, because places have different contexts, different needs, and different systems. So what's really important for me is how do you tailor that practice or that program to really suit your needs so that it works very well in your context.
Okay. Can I also add?
Yes.
We do have programs. That's where mainly the World Scout Bureau is able to support in. We develop educational programs. I can give an example. We do have the Dialogue for Peace program. This is aimed at imploring every person to be a dialogical person. So we take you through the process. How are you able to identify a conflict that is upcoming? How are we able to de-escalate it? So this program is shared with with all the National Scout organizations. So I can tell you, like last year, the Dialogue for Peace program really did well in Uganda. They had a conflict that was arising even among themselves, even among communities. So that program was really taken up then. I have noticed this year during this electioneering process that in Kenya, also most of the young people are using that same educational program to propel the conversation about why we need to be more dialogical and choose that we are all here because we want to live, all of us here, and we want to promote peace. So the different programs take up different places. Like in Nigeria, it has also taken up quite well. South Africa this year have had very many young people coming on board, and we do it in small activities. So if I tell you dialogue, I want to go to a 6-year-old and tell them, I want to talk to you about dialogue. I'll find a fun activity, and I'll ask them, when do you feel angry? What do you do when you feel angry? Your friend has come today and has talked ill about you. How do you do this and this? So we do come up with fun, short activities that everyone can learn that I am promoting. I want you to be a dialogical person. So from a very young age, by the time you're getting to 18 and getting to become an adult leader, we hope that is one of the skills that you already have as a person. Yeah.
Is it permissible for me to ask what your day job is?
Of course you may. So I work for a company called Accenture South Africa in our innovation and growth department. So I work on strategy and designing and launching products that work for the needs of humans. We call it human-centered design. So rather than saying, I think this thing will work, we go to the person who will use it and we say, does this work? And we test it and we see, can we implement it in a way that will be really successful for their needs? So that is my day job. But I can say the skills are very useful in my volunteer job as well.
And you also volunteer on an everyday basis, sort of. Sounds like you're volunteering every day. It's a lot of work to do, to coordinate all this, to be planning, for example, the forum, and then now thinking about planning the conference. As you conclude the conversation this morning, I'd like to give you the opportunity, Kathleen, to send out a message to the people that you expect to attend the conference. What is it that you'd like them to know, to come prepared with?
Well, my message to those attending the conference is always in the center of your mind and in the center of your heart as you make decisions that have such a far-reaching impact on our region. Keep in your mind the young person that will be impacted by that decision at the end of the day. That young scout, that 6-year-old, that 11-year-old, whatever their age group is, keep them in your mind and make the decision for them, because that's why you're here. You're here to represent them and drive progress on their behalf. So if you keep them at the center, you will make a good choice for them.
Thank you very much. So this is an invite-only conference.
Yeah. Well, not invite only. They'll say all of our member organizations are invited, but they decide who
They
from their
choose
side will
who
attend.
is going to be representing their delegation.
Yes.
All right. Catherine Godfrey is a chairperson of the Youth Advisors to Africa Scouts Committee between 2018 and 2022, and the chair of the 9th Africa Scouts Youth Forum that just concluded in Nairobi. And what is your role in the conference?
Well, in the conference, I will be presenting some workshops on standards, global standards, maybe
Okay.
a few constitutional amendments, just overall support.
Okay.
And
So you don't have a title. So the titles end here. Okay. And then Grace Kamau is a senior assistant scouting development at the World Scout Bureau Africa Support Center. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us.
thank you for having us.
And keep it here for more conversations in the next hour. A very good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The investigations into the death of IEBC official is ongoing, with the body undergoing an autopsy examination anytime from now. The body is being preserved at the cottage mortuary in Nanyuki. DCI officers who are conducting the investigation have dismissed claims that the officer, Geoffrey Gitobu, may have been killed. The head of DCI in Nanyuki, Onesmus Toyuet, said that they are currently investigating the case of sudden death, saying that today's postmortem exercise will reveal what caused Gitobu's death.
There are a lot of speculation that somebody from the IEBC who has been working as a returning officer at Kirinyaga has been murdered here at Nanyuki. Those information are not correct. They are lies. We are not investigating any case of murder. We are investigating a case of a sudden death of a member of a public. So the member of public is, the body was taken to Cottage Hospital. It was received as a dead body, and we're expecting to do a postmortem to demystify what happened to his life before he died.
Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga is expected in Mombasa County as he seeks to campaign for ODM gubernatorial candidate Abdul Samad Nasir. Raila landed at the coastal city yesterday, a day after filing his petition at the Supreme Court challenging the presidential results as announced by the IEBC chairperson of Fulajibukati County. Elections in Kakamega, Mombasa, 4 constituencies and 2 wards were postponed and will now take place on Monday next week. In Mombasa, Abdul Samad will face Hassan Omar of UDA, Bolo Hezron Awiti of VDP, William King of PA, Omar Said Abdallah of Usawa Kowote, Shafi Mwaganda of Upia, and Daniel Kitsau, who is an independent candidate. In Kakamega, Cleophas Malala of UDA will take head-on Fernandez Barras of ODM, among others. Meanwhile, President-elect William Ruto is heading to Rongai constituency to campaign for UDA party candidate Paul Chibor. Chibor faces current MP Raymond Moy of Kanu and Luka Keegan of Chama Shinani. And former Chief Justice David Maraga has dismissed a tweet that quoted him endorsing the election of William Ruto as president. The tweet claimed that Maraga termed Ruto's declaration as the winner in the August 9th presidential race as valid, further calling for his swearing in on August 30th. But in a tweet through his official account, the former president of the Supreme Court dismissed the quote as fake and urged Kenyans to ignore it. Ruto's declaration as the president-elect has drawn opposition from several parties, among them his main rival, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who has moved to the Supreme Court to challenge the win, terming it null and void. And the Third Way Alliance party leader Ekuru Aukot has been criticized for saying that frivolous suits or petitions should be criminalized for time wastage. Aukot made the comments shortly after Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga lodged a presidential petition at the Supreme Court seeking to overturn the announcement of William Ruto as the president-elect and dismissed the petition as weak. The Azimio team also delivered cartons of documents ferried in a truck as evidence to prove that the poll was flawed. In a quick rejoinder, however, Chief Justice Emeritus William Mutunga criticized Aukot for his comments, saying that such pronouncements shouldn't come from someone who who took part in the making of the Constitution 2010. According to the Constitution, anyone is allowed to challenge the outcome or any aspect of the election of a president in accordance with Articles 136, 139, 1B and 146 2B. The former CJ also demanded AUCO to explain how filing a petition is criminal, adding that it is the court's mandate to determine whether a petition is frivolous or not. And detectives based at the Serious Crimes Unit have arrested 3 suspects in Kinango, Kwale County after being found in possession of a male pangolin. The 3, Paz Mwiti, Kabwere Tembe and Salim Duria, were arrested by the detectives following a tip-off from the members of the public. Posing as businessmen engaged in the illicit trade of the world's most endangered mammal, the sleuths lured the sellers from their hideouts before pouncing, arresting them and rescuing the animal. Earlier, drama ensued at Vungurungani village after 2 of the suspects attempted to set the animal free and took flight, prompting the detectives to chase after the pangolin. However, after a few minutes, the DCI restrained the duo and their mammal. The suspects are being interrogated at the DCI headquarters in Nairobi in a bid to reveal their financiers. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
Right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and traffic still continues in certain parts of the city, and we're looking at it still heavy on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD. Also pretty heavy on Kiambu Road as well. Jogo Road is heavy. We're looking at that going towards CBD, and also coming out of Gong Road a little bit here and there. We're getting out of traffic hour in no time, but still little bits and bobs here and there. Let us know what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
after 9. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this lovely morning. How are you doing wherever you're tuned in from? Well, if you're online, thank you very much for streaming the show on YouTube, on Facebook, and also joining the conversations on Twitter and Instagram. If you are joining us on SpiceFM, asante sana. We have the day's proverb before we welcome the next guests. City?
If the man in front of you falls...
where are you? You're still on this side. Oh, you should have jumped to that other side.
Yes, I'm still on this side.
Okay, you stay there then. Wait. Let me put your mic. If your man?
No, it's not my man. It's the man in front of you.
If your man in the front.
If the man in front of you, and not the man in my front, the man in front of you and you and you and you and you falls into a hole, do not follow him.
If the man in front of you falls into a hole, do not follow him. Wewe kaa mahali uko.
Kila mtu akae mahali. The man in the hole akae in the hole. Na wewe ukae not in the hole.
Man in the hole, pungulu pangala.
Pungulu pangala.
You stay up.
You stay pungulu pingili.
And you guys are saying you don't know this song, Tungulu Tongala.
I didn't say I didn't know it. It's Ndu who said she didn't know it.
I didn't know it, no.
You didn't?
No. You can't know all songs, can you?
Jemolem said, do you know that song?
Yes.
Tungulu Twangala.
No, it's not Tungulu. It's a Pungulu. For avoidance of doubt.
Sing it. Sing it.
No, I know it's a Pungulu Pangala. Something.
You guys don't know this song. That is a song. It is called Kungulu Kwangala. Tundulu Tundulu. Jemo Ulemse. That is your name.
No.
What is your name?
My name is Wilson Muirani Gadhoni.
So
who is Jemo?
So Wilson. So Jemo is short for Wilson.
No, it's not.
Who is Wilson?
Wilson is Wilson Muirani Gadhoni.
And who is Jemo?
Jemo Ulemse is the alter ego of Wilson Muirani Gadhoni.
I see.
That's his persona.
Kabisa. Wilson, thank you very much for joining us in Kenya's biggest conversation. Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you so much.
Wilson is a content creator, he is a radio host, and he has been the spokesperson for the Professor George Wajackoyah presidential campaign. Yes?
Yes.
And you do very many things. Let's start with the latest. What is a spokesperson for a campaign? What's that?
In my space, that's Roots Party. It's the point of being able to amplify the messages of the party and also be a connector to the party with, especially on areas of social media and also mainstream media. That was my main role during the campaigns. So amplifying the messages of the party, the messages of our presidential candidate, and the running mate, especially during the campaigns.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you a member of the party?
Myself?
Yes.
Yes.
So when did you join this party?
I joined the party 3 months to the elections. In May, that's when I joined the party. Yes.
And what drove you to the party?
I had been following the ideologies of the party, the messages, their stance on many points, and their idea on how they were about to revive the economy and pay our debts to China and free ourselves.
And revolutionize
yes, so,
our mindset.
Yes, so there were many things that pulled me to the movement. And when I received a call from Professor Wajackoyah for me to meet with him, I obliged that meeting and we met and we agreed that I'm joining the party in that capacity.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, that party and the campaign messaging really stood out because it had a distinct message that was different from what other campaigners were saying. Everybody else was talking about, empowerment of community, money coming from the government, going to communities to support them, youth, women, and so on and so forth. The Roots Party messaging did not have anything like money coming to community. It was about agriculture and a different kind of agriculture, using what is currently considered illegal in the country and saying, legalize this, we are going to make money out of it, and we are going to pay our debts and change our lives. I mean, that was complete mind shift, City, wasn't it?
That thing wasn't a mind shift, my brother. That one was revolutionary because here we are thinking schools, water, buildings, the normal run-of-the-mill statements that politicians make. No, let me revise that. The normal boring statements that politicians make. Then someone comes up with something that sounds a little ludicrous, but when you examine it, it makes sense because there's evidence to actually show that not only does it make sense, it makes commercial and economic sense. Okay? Now, simply because it's something that people have always derided and any serious discussion around it has not really existed. So when someone says it, you immediately consign that conversation to the realm of the ridiculous. Whereas somebody's actually talking about something that is not only possible, but it's something that's realistic.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's practically being done elsewhere.
Yes.
For us, it was also changing the norms because you see the things that you're talking about, the roads, the schools, the hospitals, those are things that ought to be done by any government. You don't need to campaign to tell people you'll build schools for them. You don't have to campaign to tell you build bridges, you build schools, you'll bridge.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That's what every sane government should be doing. And no politician should be elected to do those things. Politicians, especially during elections, are supposed to come with ideas that can change the lives of the people. New ideas. So that people can say, now we want to follow Eric Latif because he is saying he can do X, Y, Z. But these are normal things. Even for those who studies even developed countries, those are things that people don't even mention in campaigns. Yes. Yeah.
But Jamo, you've been in campaigns before. I know you for a number of years. 2013 and 2017, you were active in campaigns.
Yes.
But those were the messages that were being spread to the people.
There were different things. For example, in 2017, there were different things. For example, there were laptops that were being promised for kids because they were saying we are going to a digital economy. There were things about talent and how they are going to revolutionize sports in the country. That's how things like stadiums were promised. There were so many things that were mentioned which were very interesting. If you remember the side I was supporting in 2017, you remember there was a lot of interesting things that were mentioned. And for me, those are things that pulled me there.
Like fulfilling unfulfilled promises.
Yes, definitely. So there were some very, very crazy ideas that needed to be done. Same with the Jacoya campaign. If the difference between what other people are saying is we will get money, then we'll put it to some people so that those people can be empowered. But nobody is saying where will I get the money to do that. Yet we know we have debt obligations, we have so many things to do. For us, we are saying we want the citizen to get the money, herself or himself, and then they'll be empowered in their lives. That's the difference.
You know, the wildlife conservation reconstruct, then I found a little stretched.
Was that as part of the moment declaration, though? I mean,
it was, many people, and I know that remark probably cost us a number of votes.
The hyenas.
Yes. But I will tell you what Professor Ajako, it was a figure of speech. He was talking about our relationship with the Chinese people and how we need to structure that arrangement. And the reason we didn't get a chance to explain what he really meant by that, it was a figure of speech in terms of the Chinese people have really sold a lot of things to us, good and bad. And they have made money out of that. We are in debt because of that. So his point was we can literally sell anything to those people since they consume everything. If you remember the stories of why we have COVID in the world, because somebody is alleging some people are consuming some things that they should not be consuming, and that's where the virus came from.
Okay.
So if you look even some of the documentaries, those people consume everything, literally everything, and maybe probably because of their big population and everything. So it was more of a figure of speech that we can sell anything to those guys. We maliza their debt, and we soldier on as a strong country economically.
Oh, but surely you must have understood how people took it. So you were not saying that necessarily there was an intent to harvest hyenas, things like this, but was thinking about the impact of what was said had on the people who were listening. And you said, yes, you possibly lost some votes, but you'd be surprised at how many then you would have gained because people were thinking in a different trajectory, kind of like what CT said.
Yes.
However, then the messaging would have been hugely important if that's not what you really meant.
Yes, definitely. That's why I'm saying it was a spur of the moment. We had a manifesto launch. It was going on well. And of course, during the same day, Kenya Kwanza were still launching their manifesto. And our presidential candidate, while explaining some of the points of how we're going to be dealing with some of the things like debt, mentioned that. But it was a figure of speech.
It was a light bulb moment.
Yeah?
It was a light bulb moment.
Yes.
So now you are the communications person. You are the spokesperson for the campaign. You have obviously prepared, this is going to be our manifesto launch. This is the program for the manifesto launch. This is who's going to start speaking. At this point, we'll play reggae. People will dance. We'll get to the dance floor, this and the other. And then the presidential candidate is going to come and speak. And this is the message. Prepared speech for the presidential candidate. And even off the cuff, you can go this far and this far. And then he spins in and throws in hyenas. What did you feel at that point? Did you laugh? Did you wonder, okay, how am I going to deal with this?
First of all, if for those, even if you can check some of the videos that were being collected there, I held my head. I I held my head in awe because, first of all, we were during the time that you're not supposed to say certain things.
Yes.
Because it
So
was
watershed period.
it was not after 10 p.m. So what happened, and I remember even what happened is we were live in many TV stations. And when our presidential candidate said that, some of the TV stations actually dropped the live feed. You understand? Because I think because of the various laws and rules that of course has to be followed, and of course I think maybe they didn't know what he would say next.
Yeah.
So it affected us in a way. For me, I knew immediately I heard the statement. I knew this
Watershed.
watershed, and also I didn't know how will people react. What kind of questions will come from that? And of course the questions came, and like I said, I know probably it costed some votes here and there for people who are taking us very seriously, especially with the bangi economy, with the venom harvesting and everything. So that point, especially when he said they cost this and this much, and he went ahead to explain how they're economically viable, definitely there are people who came up with questions and probably stopped taking us seriously. Yeah, it happened.
We have seen communications advisors to various campaigns, locally and globally. And when they sit back and they even write their books, they talk about the moment when they feel that they were winning an election, the moment when they feel that they were losing an election, and what that meant. And then they also now take us into the back room and tell us, we actually went back into the room and had a fight, had a shouting match, now take us into the back room. So this thing has happened. You have seen several TV stations that were giving you free airtime have dropped you.
Yeah.
You know you're competing for this airtime with another campaign that's competing with you. It has dropped. It's because of something that was not prepared. What did you tell your candidate?
No, of course, we had a discussion about the hyenas and everything. But our conclusion was we should not dwell on that issue as much as it became a very big issue. We should continue amplifying our message about the economy, the things that we are going to do once we take power. And we chose to ignore that issue. Because
was that a wise decision?
It was and it wasn't. The reason why it was is because we didn't now want to start doing interviews or going to rallies and explaining like, hey, the hyena testicles was a slur or it was a moment of the time or everything. You understand? But now when we didn't do that, very many people didn't get that explanation.
They went with what they heard
Yes.
the first time.
And you know, if right now, even if you go to Google, you'll see how many people try to search what is the worth of a hyena, do they have any medicinal value?
How to hunt a hyena?
Are they used in China? All those things.
How to
People are
rear
Googling
hyenas.
and trying to look for those results. And when they are Googling, they couldn't find anything. You know, we were in that point we are saying, how I wish there is some research institute that has been doing studies for this thing that will find something, but it didn't. So we chose not to address it. But of course, the consequences we are seeing on 9th August.
You know, when you say decisions were made, is that a decision made by a committee? Is a decision made by an individual? And when you look at the guiding issues that brought you to that particular decision, now with hindsight, hindsight provides a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Could you have done it differently?
Definitely. It wasn't, I will be very honest, it wasn't worth a mention. It's a point that could have been ignored in the campaign. It added no value as much as probably it trended. And it was in everyone's tongue. But it didn't have value. In any case, it did more harm than damage to us in terms of being taken seriously. Yeah, so yes, going back, if we were on the same stage, there are some things that would do differently that we learned from the campaign.
Do you feel that there's something that did not come out about about who he is, who they were as a pair, that could have come out if there was not all these other, layers of, what you hoped had not come out that people were then focusing on? Was there a loss then in terms of what could have really been shared from him?
You see, many people became interested in the campaign because of how Professor Wajakoya and Justina Omai were articulating about the legalization of marijuana, of course, for industrial use.
Yes.
That was the big interest for people in our party. People wanted to know, okay, is this feasible? Yes, I have some land in my village that I don't use. So in any case, what these people are saying, if it is powerful, it is. And people would go online, Google, see how it's happening in other countries, and they will see it's feasible. So if we stuck primarily on the legalization of marijuana, that would have become a real campaign issue. But the moment, people now started associating us with such things, the hyenas, even the snake venom, it's something which is very, very, it's viable.
It is.
It's very viable, but it wasn't for many people because, we are still in an African country where we're trying to get out from the stereotypes and everything of snakes being associated with witchcraft. I don't know with what. So many things. And, people think a snake is a devil. There are so many things associated. So when we talked about snake rearing, as much as it was interesting, there were so many people who said, okay.
I know people who rear snakes are witches.
And
You
warlocks.
understand? So, but if we primarily stuck to the bangi economy, I don't think whether the petition in the Supreme Court, there would be no petition.
Oh, there would have been an outright winner.
Yes. There would be no petition. We would be talking about different results on the IEBC platform.
And this is something you realized after the fact. Because think about the manner in which you're saying this so clearly to us right now. That, to you, I'm almost imagining you in a corner cringing, saying, no, please don't say that. You shouldn't have said that.
Yes.
So that means then previously you must have had an idea that, this is where we should go. And if you did, why then did you not insist on going in that? If you're saying that, we would have had a different result today.
You see, and that's why it's called about election learnings. And for me, as a communication person for the Roots Party, I can see we had a goal. Why didn't we achieve the goal as we had wished to achieve the goal? It's because of X, Y reasons. And that's why we are saying part of the learnings, because Roots Party right now, everybody knows about Roots Party.
Yep.
And you're looking forward to going to 2027 as a very strong party. At least now we have 5 years of planning. We have 5 years we can get as many MCAs, as many MPs, as many governors, and ultimately a president from the party. So the learnings for us, especially in a short time, you see, we were not as organized as the we could say like the two mainstream parties.
The bigger ones.
Yes, the bigger ones, because some of them, they are organized because for obvious reasons. They had people in government, very senior, supporting them. They have been in politics for a long time. They know the X, Y, Z. If we were organized, 20%, just 20% of like how they were organized, then probably we could even have taken the government. That's what I can tell you for a fact. So it's the small mistakes, the learnings that you're saying we will not repeat. The next time we say this is the agenda, we'll stay on the path of that agenda.
On
We'll not
one-point
veer.
agenda.
Yes.
Do you see that as a justification for having a single-point agenda? For example, when we had interviewed your presidential candidate here, Professor Wajakoya, we talked about very many things. He talked about, yes, there's the bangi economy. He went into other things, like if he took office, there's the bit about suspending the constitution, how to deal with corruption and all.
Yes.
At some point, those were all messages that were coming from Wajakoya.
Yes.
I'm going to hang the corrupt.
Yeah.
I'm going to plant bangi and pay the Chinese.
Yes.
I'm going to do this and the other. Did you come to a decision on forget about everything else? Let's only focus on the bangi economy. Or did it grow organically?
You see, for example, the bangi economy cannot operate in a corrupt environment. So him saying he'll hang the corrupt worked very well. Because, yes, you can get the money for the citizens. Then if that money will be lost to corruption, definitely you are doing nothing. So there were points that were complementary. For example, him saying about the bank economy and hanging the corrupt, those one worked very well. The only things that didn't work was, there are two things that costed us in that campaign. One was that hyena remark, and the other one was statements that were misconstrued to mean that he was endorsing another presidential candidate. And it also cost us a lot. And that it's at that point that we earned the project, the tag, the project. You understand? And people started accusing us we are a project of certain individuals, which was certainly not true. It was definitely a very big lie. And what happened is our presidential candidate was in Kisumu. Of course, Kisumu is considered to be a stronghold of Raila Odinga. And he talked some good things about Raila Odinga, which in our developing democracy, we are not at that point where you go to a certain area where a candidate is considered to be very popular and you talk nice things about them. We are still in the politics like, if me and Latif are in a competition, if I go to his home, I need to abuse him, I need to talk some bad things about him, or I need to completely ignore mentioning about him.
Because if you said anything good about him, it could only mean that you were joining
Yes,
him.
that's why we are. Because there is nowhere Professor Wajakoya endorsed Raila Odinga. Because he would have said, hey, I'm not vying, guys. The people who are supporting me, please support Raila Odinga. But he never said that. And I will tell you, let me give you an example. You've seen so many times, probably Ruto saying, nataka kuambia ndugu yangu Raila Odinga, mutu ya kitendawili, muganga, you understand? Then you'll see guys, Raila, he will say, nataka kuambia ndugu yangu Ruto, yani mwizi, for example. You understand? So for them, they will do that. Then they will meet probably in an IEBC meeting.
And
they will say hi to
hands.
each other, hug each other, and nobody will report that they are endorsing each other. You understand? So the mistake and what probably people judge Professor Wajakoya is being in. He went to Eldoret, and he said, "Hey guys, stop disturbing Ruto. Stop doing XYZ to him." Nobody said he endorsed Ruto. You were just practicing a different kind of politics that cost us big. So those are the two highlights that really cost us a very big chunk of votes because people got confused.
You know, what you people were attempting has been done before. So you're not trying something that hadn't been done.
Yeah.
Because you need to cast your eye into Europe and look at France.
Yes.
Okay. The party on which President Macron won the election was a party that had been established in 2016.
Yes.
Okay. And the election that he won was the following year. So you ask how? And not only did they win, but they also managed to get a majority in parliament.
Yes.
Okay, the win was in the second round.
Yeah.
But still,
yes,
it was something that was earth-shaking and earth-moving. So it isn't new. Now, my question is, what lessons were you taking from elections such as this one and others where the completely unexpected happens and somebody who perhaps was a rank outsider and not even given the time of day suddenly turns up to be the person who everyone is looking at and is actually winning?
One of the big lessons is we've learned is like people are open to new ideas, given a chance. They are ready to listen to new, interesting ideas. However ridiculous or however funny they sound, if they make sense, they are willing to listen. But we need to demonetize our elections. I was reading a report where, an international report where it indicated that for you to become a women rep, probably you need to have 33 million to campaign. For you to become an MP, you require like 18 million. It was some Westminster report I was reading online. So we are still operating in the politics of money. And it was evident. Yes, we would go with Wajakoya somewhere. People would come, they want to listen to him. But at some point, you would hear someone telling, "Munatuachia nini? Hii campaign munafanya, lazima muachie watu kakitu." So the culture of handouts Kitambo was being entrenched by politicians. But now Kenyans have taken it upon themselves. They are like, "Hey, you sound very interesting. What are you giving us?"
Can I challenge that position and ask the question?
Yes.
What is it then that people do to change that narrative? Because we have examples and instances where the complete opposite happened. Instead of people looking for money, people gave money. And people who didn't even have money to speak of, suddenly winning.
Yes, but certainly not in Africa.
Oh, I'm not talking about a presidential race.
Yes.
I'm simply talking about our politics.
Yes.
The example I like giving is now the governor-elect of Kericho.
Yeah.
A gentleman by the name of Eric Mutai.
Yeah.
A university don.
Yes.
Now, it is considered unique, but you don't need 10 examples to show you that it is possible.
Yeah.
what did this person do? And then there's somebody called Toto, okay? People who you cannot say even had a fraction.
Yeah.
A decimal fraction of what we're talking about in terms of financial might.
Yes.
And yet, the people decided, these are the people.
My point was that we didn't lose because we are not giving handouts. I was talking generally about how our elections looks like.
Yes.
And let me tell you, they would say like the two leading presidential candidates, for example, they used a lot of resources.
Still using a lot of resources.
And they are still using a lot of resources to get that power. And for me, what I'm saying is, if we would come with something as a nation to demonetize our elections, then the quality of leadership in our country would increase.
Actually, what I am saying is probably not the opposite, but I'm saying that when you have a certain caliber of leader or presents his agenda in a certain way, people then are drawn to you because of that, and the money factor stops being the predominant issue, which now determines whether they elect you or not. That's really the point I'm trying to make.
Yes. There was that point of people trying to change that, and that's why Wajakoya and Moure has gotten the number of votes. Those are people who stood up and said, we are voting for these people on principle because they believe in the ideas. That number could have been bigger on our case if we didn't have like those two technical blunders that we did in our campaign. Probably we would be talking about a runoff in the elections. And I'm pretty sure about that. If we didn't call kidogo, atukufanya hizo makosa kidogo, the election results would have been different. That one I can confidently say.
Professor Jojo Jakoya and Justina Wamai got 61,969 votes. As announced by the IEBC.
Yes.
Not a small figure.
They might be, we never know what the Supreme Court ruling will be.
If there's a retaliation.
Yes.
You may even get more.
Yes. If going by what people are saying, the allegations and everything, if they are proven to be true, then the case definitely will be different. Yeah.
Let's take a break. 24 minutes to 10. Wilson Moirani, a.k.a. Jemo Ulemse, is a content creator, he's a radio host, and is Roots Party spokesperson. Here with us in the studio, giving us the lessons that he's learned from the campaign trail, and that's what we're discussing. Also, evil thrives when silence shouts.
Evil does thrive when silence shouts. And that is a tagline of County 49. It's Showmax's latest Kenyan original production that will premiere on the 25th with new episodes every week. It's a political drama. It follows Bwatele County, a fictional county that is the breadbasket of Kenya, where its citizens suffer from the high cost of living and scarce resources despite the country's wealth. Sound familiar? County 49 stars Wakio Mzenge, Nyokabi Masharia, Aina Ojambo, Makbul Mohammed, Martin Githinji, Peter Kawa, Benson Ojua, Nick Kwach, Emmanuel Mugo, Angela Mwandanda, Sam Sejen, and many more. So subscribe to Showmax today for as low as 760 shillings per month. Enjoy endless entertainment anytime, anywhere, on any device that ranges from local and global series to movies, documentaries, and kids shows.
So it premieres tomorrow?
25th, yes.
What time?
Tomorrow.
It shows at what? Is it at 8?
Tomorrow. You know how it is at Chad?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. When tomorrow comes, go to Showmax. You'll find it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Introducing the new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4, where you can enjoy the hands-free power of the Galaxy Flip 4's FlexCam, letting you take pictures and still be in them. Trade in your old device with Badili and get 20,000 shillings over traded-in phone value. You can also get it now and pay later with Aspira at 0% interest for 6 months. So, pre-order yours today and get a clear slim phone cover with Samsung Care Plus and 24 months warranty. Terms and conditions apply.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions through today. It's 18 degrees. It'll go to highs of 23 and lows of 14 in Nairobi. Sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 20 in rainy Nyeri at 16. The sun is out in Eldoret at 17, highs of 22 and lows of 12. It's a sunny day in Mombasa at 26. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 27 as well in Malindi. 23 and sunny in Kisumu, 23 and sunny in Kakamega. It's 21 degrees and rainy in Kampala. We'll see highs of 30 in a sunny Dar es Salaam and 10 degrees sunny conditions in Johannesburg. It's raining at 24 in Lagos. We'll see highs of 30 and highs of 31 in a sunny Kinshasa. 28 degrees going into Wednesday evening in Beijing. And looking into Paris, it's mostly cloudy at 20 and cloudy in London. And looking into New York, it's clear at 24. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 32 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your
All right, we're
life.
coming out of traffic hour. Shouldn't be too terrible now going through the rest of the morning. Where we had seen it heavy before is looking a lot better now. Still coming off the Thika Superhighway with a bit of a hiccup here and there, as well as Kiambu Road, but it shouldn't be for much longer as folks are generally getting where they planned to go this morning. Just past the Utali Drift is where you'll see that. It's really heavy on Juja Road, however, as you're trying to get into the city. Uhuru Highway doesn't look too bad until you get to those little junctions here and there as you're getting to Haile Selassie. Okay, through the morning, talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Try keep things moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
20 to
done
10,
right.
Jamal and Say still here with us.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Of course, it's presidential campaign candidates, Professor George Ojakoya and Justina Wamai. We are talking about lessons learned from the campaign trail. Well, it's not like the first time that Jemo was participating in campaigns. He's done it before. You were in Jubilee in 2017.
Yeah, and in 2012.
And in 2012, you're in TNA.
Yeah.
The Jubilee Coalition.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about campaign sloganeering. Obama came with change you can believe in at his nomination campaigns.
Yes.
It was all about change you can believe in. And then, yes, you can when he got the nomination. Charity Ngilu with Masani Ngilu in 97, resonated. And it was all Masani Ngilu. Then bottom up. It also resonated. And then there's Tingisha Miti.
Yes.
Joins that list of, campaign slogans that people remember.
Yes.
Charles Gashero is asking, what was that all about? What is Tingisha Muti?
It's literally shaking the tree.
Which tree?
The tree of corruption, the tree of undevelopment, the tree of a mountain of debt, and the tree of very many bad things that happens in the country. And because it's the same thing like we started the show by saying, politicians just say the normal things. They just sugarcoat it and put some sweet into it, and then we vote for them, and we are back to normal. Because 1963, Kenyatta comes to build schools, universities, and hospitals and everything. Moi does the same thing. Kibaki at least built the roads and the schools and the hospitals. Uhuru come to build the roads. So the next person who comes needed to do something. That's why I said we needed to shake the tree, because we have been used to the norm of doing things the same way and expecting different results. Or
so it's
having politicians.
What happens? If you shake the tree, the fruits fall.
Yes, yes. You understand? For example, we have what happens in our elections is just politicians moving from this party, going to another party, changing the colors, and now claiming they are the chief liberators of the people.
Yes.
You understand? But they are not. They are just moving from one house to another house and using it as a vehicle. So for us, we are saying tingiza muti ya hizo vitu zote. We shake the tree, we plant new trees.
Oh, it's like drain the swamp.
Yes, yes. We have to shake the tree. So that all the bad things that are happening falls down. Hata mti yenyewe inaweza anguka.
Get rid of the old.
Yes. Then we plant new trees with a new formation. And that's why our manifesto was based on new things that will take our country to the next level. That was that's what informed the formation of that slogan.
But in many ways you did really, because if the idea is to shake people out of their complacency and into re-examining just the way they look at things, the Bangi story did wonders with that. Because people started looking and saying, wait a moment. Indeed.
Yes. What we did is we overshook the tree. So the results then...
Actually, I think not.
A little bit.
No, I actually think
like,
not.
for example, the hyena thing was
no,
shaking
it was part of shaking the tree.
I actually don't think
it was a rotten apple that was falling. But,
think about it.
Yes.
Why is it that your campaign is still on people's lips? Why is it that people still talk about it?
Yes.
The hyena thing helped it get there more than you realize.
It was different.
Anything that people can parody, they can make fun of, they'll talk of a lot more than this supposedly very serious road building, structure. People remember it longer. And with time, an explanation such as the one you've given even has its place and it begins to make sense.
Yes.
Now, you may not realize it, but what you did was successful in that you got people thinking, must we elect the sort of leaders who tell us the same thing year in, year out?
Yeah.
And the answer was, no, we don't have to.
Yes.
We actually can elect people who are radically different. Now, you may not see the effects immediately now, but I dare say, come the next election.
Yes.
If someone says we should now be milking snakes, they'll be taken seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Milking
now,
snakes.
what will be required is a proof of concept. yes, for that. Yeah.
So are we saying, essentially, I mean, from what you've said, look, if this and this had been done differently, then maybe we've had more numbers. We would have been able to move the country's thinking into a certain direction.
Yes.
So then are you saying that currently the messaging of alternative leadership remains the same for the Roots Party?
In terms of?
Going forward. Because I think the mistake that's made all the time is that
we
draw our activity of electioneering around an election.
Yes.
And then forgetting what should happen
in
between this time and the next election.
Yes.
So is the messaging the same for the Roots Party, or is it now a dud because the election has happened?
No.
Okay.
We are continuing. We'll be doing a lot of lobbying. We'll be doing a lot of information sharing. We'll be pushing for the legalization of marijuana, whether we control the government or not. That is an agenda that has to continue going forward. Even the idea of venom and everything. We actually, before the elections, we did our Professor Wajakoya and Justina. We went and we met some big bosses at KWS to discuss about how people can get licenses for snakes farming. So it was actually something which was very, very serious.
Yes.
So those are some of the agendas that we are not dropping them and now waiting for 2027.
Okay.
We'll be pushing that agenda. You see, when you're pushing an agenda to liberate a country, it doesn't necessarily has to be done by you. You understand? You know, in our country, we suffer from the point of, kama ni mimi nilikuwa nasema kitu fulani nifanye, musiponichagua, that thing stops. So you have to wait for you guys to elect me again so that now I can push for that agenda.
And there's everything all right in the house. It would appear that mommy and daddy are fighting. Because if you're going to say there's one message that's being carried forward, it seems as though the United Front is not so much united at the moment. Those rumors.
I think for us it's something that we're taking positively as a party, because that's how democratic parties operate, where everyone has a voice to say what they are believing and what they are feeling. And as you saw from our campaign, we have very strong leaders in our party. Justin Awama is a very strong leader. Professor Wajakoya is a very strong leader. So it's just a difference of opinion on certain issues and how things should be done. And that has been witnessed in parties across the world, where you fight, you find the party leadership probably is seeing things differently.
Okay.
But those are things that will be resolved very soon and will be back to normal.
So nobody's going anywhere?
No. Those are just issues. They arise everywhere.
Mm-mm.
You remember even some of the presidential candidates for the other parties, they have been embroiled in a party tussles before, which they overcame. So those are normal democracy issues, internal issues for parties.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there internal mechanisms for addressing such?
Definitely.
And what are they?
We have the National Executive Councils that handle such things. We have disciplinary bodies within the party. We have diplomatic channels to resolve some of those issues. It's only that those issues have reached out in the media, but they will definitely be corrected within due time.
I'm interested in knowing how it is you plan to increase the membership of your party.
It's actually, right now, it's the best time. And the next thing, plan of action that we're embarking is to recruit a lot of party members, like you have asked. And we also, one of the things that also didn't augur well with us is we didn't have many aspirants as members of county assembly, as members of parliament, as women representative, probably governors candidates. We only had candidates at the top, though we had a few MCA candidates here and there. So in the next elections, we want to ensure, that's why we are very clear about the agenda that we are pushing, so that we can have as many candidates as possible, spreading our messages at the grassroots level. So that it's not just Professor Wajakoya and Justina who are articulating our messages nationally. Even at the grassroots levels, we have cells and agents of people selling the messages. So that is what...
You plan to do so?
Yes. That's
How
what we plan to
exactly do you plan to ensure you get members? I'm talking about membership drives.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the sort of things political parties do to ensure that people not only resonate with their message, but they also resonate to the point where they are willing to actually ditch the position they had in before and join. Because the group of individuals you seem to have attracted are people who don't hold the current systems and political parties in very high regard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got their attention.
Yes.
How to get them in?
How our plan will be informed also by the outcome of the Supreme Court. There's a lot of things that will be based on that, because it's after this political decision that now we'll start our grassroots members recruitment, but which we'll do very differently. It won't be the same way that you call people somewhere, you give them T-shirts, you give them money, then you take photos.
You won't be giving T-shirts?
No, we'll give,
Sorry, Cici.
Can I give you a different thing that happened with our campaign? Yeah. You see, all the other presidential candidates, we are giving out T-shirts and cups and everything. It was different for us. People were going to print their own T-shirts. You understand? With the roots messaging, with the Professor Wajakoya's face on their T-shirts. Yeah. It was them wanting to print a T-shirt, pay for it for somebody they don't know, and get the T-shirt. So that's what I'm saying. Our membership recruitment drive will be something different. It will have a lot of technology in it, because we want to show people that what we think are the politics of the future can be done actually here in Kenya, and we can change the country. So I don't have the specifics. I cannot tell you the specifics of how we'll do the registration drive, but it's coming and you'll see a lot of things happening.
How do you balance between the job of a political campaign and your other jobs? So your job on radio, your job as an entertainer, as a content creator, dealing with obviously different clients who engage you as Jamolem say, the content creator, and then they are seeing you next to Professor Wajakoya talking about Bangi.
Yes.
Did that clash?
Very interesting. First of all, I went to school and I studied political science and economics. That's what I studied in campus. Secondly, I feel as a public figure, as somebody who creates content for all Kenyans, I have a patriotic duty to participate in the in competitive politics to ensure that we have good leaders in our country. And that also has a self-interest in it. In terms of, I am a content creator, I work for brands. Brands operate in an environment where there is peace, unity, and there is good leadership. So if there is good leadership, the brands that I work with will make more money. They'll be able to pay me more money when I create content for them. So if I don't participate in an elective process, then, for example, tomorrow we have a bad president or we have bad leadership, the brands that support me, they are not doing business as they used to, they will let me go. So I feel, as a Kenyan who is a public figure, it is upon me to participate in the process to ensure that we have good leadership in the country. Because good leadership will mean good business for me later. You understand? That's why I did it. And of course, it has put me on a collision course with some of the brands that I work with. Some of them have told me, okay, we are holding this off. Please finish your politics, then come back and we continue with what we do. And that's the kind of relationship that I have the brands that I work with. By telling them, this for me is personal. I have to participate in this process because I want us to have good leadership in the country. And I cannot just sit down and say, as an influencer or as a content creator, wacha tu niache, nione watu venye watafanya, then things go wrong later and I start coming out complaining, lamenting and saying, oh, we have a bad business environment. That's the sole reason why I participate in politics. Every time that they come after every 5 years.
How did it make you feel when you have this conversation with some of your clients, the brands, and then they've told you, ukizima hiyo kitu kuja tuongee?
No, it's good for me. It's respect. Because for them, they have contracts that say, if you are participating in politics, then you cannot market our brand. And it's also a sacrifice for me. Because during that time, I'm not being paid for what I do. But I choose it. I say, let me do it. Because it's personal to me. I don't want to be sitting back and saying, I'm not doing anything. Then things go wrong later and then I wish I did.
You don't want decisions made on your behalf without you having a say in it.
Yes.
So what way forward then? Will you drop the party for a bit so that you can go back and earn for a bit?
You see,
because if you go back to your clients, they'll tell you, are you still with the
You see, the problem with and I want to explain this. If you look at developed economies, artists, content creators, influencers, public figures who are popular, they participate in the elections.
They do.
And it doesn't...
Not elections, politics.
Or in the politics of their country. And it doesn't cost anyone anything. In Kenya, it's because brands fear, kama jemona ambwa ni watu wa Wajakoya, so kama anauza hii kahawa, kuna watu wataikunywa because they don't support Wajakoya. Which for me, I feel, it's neither here nor there. Because if they really did the science of marketing, that's not how people don't buy because, oh, huyu ni wa Ruto, oh, huyu ni wa Raila, huyu ni wa fulani. They buy because they want to use a product. If, for example, it's this water, you will want this water because you know it's good water and you have a need to drink water. You understand?
Yeah.
So for me, I've said, I will stand by ground. I will talk with the brands. I'll tell them, hey, active politics imeishaisha. Most of the things that right now will be happening in Roots Party are behind the scenes. But things have to move on. I will not stop creating the content. In the first place, when I started creating content, it was not content for brands. It was content to entertain the people. You see, the brands only came in when they see, hey, this person is talking to X audience, we can put our product here. There are people who don't have a problem with me doing what I do and occasionally doing the politics that I do. I will continue working with those like-minded people. But I will not sacrifice my patriotic obligation so that I earn a coin on this side, and on this side, I'm letting my country go to the dogs because I cannot speak. That one I will not do. Yeah.
Projecting to the future.
Yes.
Looking at the politics of the country, looking at the way our campaigns have been conducted, our elections have been held, what do you see going forward? Looking at the number of people who did not participate in this election despite being registered as voters.
First of all, the voter apathy that happened in this country is something to worry all of us. Because when you have a number like 10 million, over 10 million people not probably participating in an elections and choosing just to sleep on that day, because I went to vote. I voted at KICC, and I just left home and went. There was no queue at all. I went, just voted, and went back to the activities of the party that were happening on that day. So that is the biggest protest vote that people are not talking about. You see, people are now just focusing on who voted for Raila Odinga, who voted for Ruto, who voted for Jacob, and who voted for Mwaura. But for me, the big question is, why did those people not vote?
Yes.
And if that question is not answered, then we don't know what is happening in our elections. And ending it up, what I'm saying also in terms of IEBC, and I feel I should say this, the Supreme Court, other than just, for example, ruling on the case saying there will be a retally, there will be nullification, or there will be a recount or whatever, or dismissing the case, we need some people jailed so that this country can move forward. So that we don't have we don't have to keep repeating things. The people who should be jailed, and I will say this without avoidance of doubt, are IEBC commissioners, all of them, including their chairman. If it was in developed countries where a chairman of a commission comes up and say, these are the results, and other people come and say, these are not the results, yet the same people are in the same room. Someone is saying, these people are telling me to cook results so that we go to a runoff. And other people are saying, this person has announced results that we don't agree with. Those people should be jailed.
All of them.
So that when we have elections, if you are the chairman, you're leading a commission, you will have the full of your commission. You will not have people going on this side and people going this side, giving different results for a national election.
Jemo.
I think that's something that we need to correct for this country to go forward.
Message passed.
Yes.
Jemo Ulemse, content creator, radio host, and Roots Party spokesperson, has been our guest. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning, and also join us on Showmax as we watch the premiere of County
49.
There you go. 10 a.m. Have a lovely day.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government has assured Nakuru residents that the recent reported swine flu outbreak in Elementaita area has been contained and that there was no cause for alarm. Nakuru County Public Health Officer Dr. Daniel Wenaina said adequate mitigation measures have been put in place to control the spread of the virus to other areas and also to both humans and animals. He said currently only 8 children below 1 year of age are admitted with mild signs of the virus and that they are being treated using antibiotics and ensured